नमस्कार। आजको हाम्रो पहिलो प्लेनरी सेसन कोभिड-19 को नेपालको इकोनोमीमा इम्प्याक्ट र पाथ टु रिकभरीको बारेमा हुनेछ। हामीसँग स्टेलर वक्ताहरू हुनुहुन्छ र प्यानलिस्टहरू हुनुहुन्छ। सर्वप्रथम म यो प्रोग्रामको सेसन चेयरको रूपमा चाहिँ हाम्रो पूर्व अर्थमन्त्रीज्यू डाक्टर युवराज खतिवडालाई इन्भाइट गर्दछु।
हस्, धन्यवाद।
डाक्टर खतिवडा एक कुशल अर्थशास्त्रको प्राध्यापक तथा भेटरान आर्थिक प्रशासक हुनुहुन्छ। डाक्टर खतिवडासँग बैंकिङ क्राइसिसको बेलामा राष्ट्र बैंक, पोलिटिकल क्राइसिसको बेलामा योजना आयोग र अहिले कोभिड-19 को क्राइसिसको बेलामा अर्थ मन्त्रालय सम्हाल्नु भएको अनुभव छ। डाक्टर खतिवडा वेल पब्लिस्ड स्कलर पनि हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँको बैंकिङ लगायत अन्य क्षेत्रका अलावा विगत विकास र त्यसको लागत सम्बन्धी लेखहरू पनि प्रकाशित छन्। डाक्टर खतिवडाले सन् 1991 मा दिल्ली स्कुल अफ इकोनोमिक्सबाट पीएचडी गर्नुभएको थियो। खतिवडा र यसपछि म कार्यक्रम सुरु गरिहालौँ हैन। हाम्रो प्रथम वक्ता डाक्टर पुष्पराज कँडेल हुनुहुन्छ। डाक्टर कँडेल उहाँसँग नेपालको आर्थिक क्षेत्रमा काम गरेको लामो अनुभव छ। उहाँ सार्वजनिक वित्त तथा करको विज्ञ हुनुहुन्छ। दिल्ली स्कुल अफ इकोनोमिक्सबाट कर्पोरेट ट्याक्स विषयमा पीएचडी गर्नुभएका डाक्टर कँडेलले त्रिभुवन विश्वविद्यालयमा लामो समय अध्यापन गर्नुभएको थियो र उहाँ हाल राष्ट्रिय योजना आयोगको उपाध्यक्ष हुनुहुन्छ। डाक्टर कँडेलको आजको प्रेजेन्टेसन इम्प्याक्ट अफ कोभिड-19 अन प्लानिङ टार्गेट, सर्ट टर्म र लङ टर्म टार्गेटमा छ। म डाक्टर कँडेललाई प्रेजेन्टेसनको लागि सुरु गर्न अनुरोध गर्दछु।
यो मेरो प्रेजेन्टेसन चाहिँ इङ्ग्लिसमा बनाएँ। मैले इङ्ग्लिस हो कि नेपाली हो चाहिँ हैन,
दुईटै मिक्स गर्नुभयो हुन्छ सर।
मैले सुरु गरौँ हैन त्यसो भए? हस्, नमस्कार। Mr. Chair, distinguished speakers, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I feel honored to be delivering the keynote address at the second Global Knowledge Convention on the topic impact of COVID-19 on the planning target, short-term and long-term. I would also like to express my profound appreciation to the Non-Resident Nepali Association for organizing this convention in the midst of this pandemic to attract global attention to its impact in Nepal and the work government has done to tackle the situation. Constitution of Nepal has directed us to use the knowledge, skill, technology, and capital of non-resident Nepali in the development of our country. Current 15th five-year plan with long-term vision has recognized non-resident Nepali as one of the enablers of the prosperity and happiness. Thus, the Non-Resident Nepali Association is a vital partner in steering the development of Nepal. As envisioned in the 15th periodic plan along with 25-year long-term vision, Nepal has now embarked on a journey of peace and stability with a mission to fulfill the goal of prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. Nepal aims to graduate from the least developed countries category very soon, become a middle income country by 2030, and developed nation by 2043. The government of Nepal has been highly committed to achieving the SDGs since its inception in 2015, and so has totally internalized the SDGs in its 15th plan with long-term vision. Provincial and local governments are also in due course of internalizing. We have created institutional mechanism to implement the SDGs through different layers of government. We recently presented our second voluntary national review at the high-level political forum of the United Nations, highlighting the progress made in the last 5 years of SDGs implementation in Nepal. Along with institutionalizing SDGs through various high-level committees, the government of Nepal has also produced several policy documents, such as the SDGs Needs Assessment, Costing and Financing Strategy, SDGs Localization Manual, SDGs Progress Assessment Report 2016-2019. Furthermore, SDGs have been incorporated in the national and subnational planning guidelines, as well as the monitoring and evaluation guidelines. There have been many positive developments in the various goals and targets of sustainable development, like reducing child mortality rates and national poverty, and increasing life expectancy, literacy, gender equality, and representation in state structures, such as the parliament and administration, amongst others. By and large, Nepal seems to be on the right direction of achieving the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. However, it has come with its challenges. An annual investment of Nepalese rupees 20-25 billion was estimated to to attain the SDGs by 2030. The other challenges related to SDGs are resource allocation, implementation, data creation, localization, coordination, reporting, monitoring, and evaluation, and so forth. The pandemic has further exacerbated these challenges. The 15th plan has envisioned to attain a double-digit economic growth rate and a reduce absolute and multidimensional poverty to 9.5% and 11.5% respectively. The plan has also identified game changer projects along with the existing national pride projects. Provincial governments have also prepared their plans considering federal level plans, SDGs, and the national goal of prosperous Nepal, happy Nepal. Mr. Chair, Nepal reported the first confirmed case of COVID-19 in late January 2020 and continues to spread across the country. As of today, that is October 10, 2020, the number of infected cases confirmed 100,676 and death toll reached to 600. For certain months, Nepal was in control of the situation, but due to porous border and other several factors, the condition deteriorated and spreading rate is increasing very fastly. It seems it has reached to community level now. This situation has only affected the budget implementation process of the government, but wreaked havoc on the socio-economic front, including the health sector. Prior to the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic, Nepal's economic sectors were showing significant progress. In the last 3 consecutive fiscal years, the economic growth rate averaged around 7.3% per year. Similarly, the average multidimensional poverty and consumption poverty were also reduced to 28.6% and 18.7% respectively, and Nepal's Human Development Index reached at 0.579 by the end of 2018-19. Likewise, before the pandemic, we made some remarkable progress on education, health, and other socio-economic fronts. A countrywide lockdown due to COVID-19 for almost 4 months and other economic disturbances have affected the economy immensely. It has affected the lives of vulnerable groups, particularly the poor, women, persons with disabilities, and marginalized communities. This has also affected disproportionately in the informal labor market and among small and medium entrepreneurs. The domestic and international trade has substantially slowed down, and production and supply chain has been distorted due to the lockdown. The pandemic has brought in changes in the macroeconomic targets and goals as envisioned by the 15th plan. In the first year of the current periodic plan, we had set an economic growth rate of 8.5%, which, however, may plunge back to 2.3% or lower for the last fiscal year. The current plan had estimated the annual economic growth rate of 9.6% in the current fiscal year 2077-78, which the MTF and annual budget has revised to 7%. Also, the industrial sector, which was expected to contribute to the economic growth rate by 15.6%, has declined to 11.3% in the financial year 2077-78. The service sector has also faced a fallback as the 10% growth has been revised to 6.9%. The inflation rate was estimated to be 6% in the plan, which has now been revised to 7%. The total GDP, budget size, revenue expenditure, transfer to subnational level, investment, saving, employment, and so forth are impacted by the pandemic. However, due to earlier government intervention, some of the external sector variables like remittance, import, export, balance of payment are not in wrong track. Besides that, the adverse impact on tourism, education, health, manufacturing, agriculture, construction, trade, and other services could subdue the targeted economic growth. The economic downturn could further increase business uncertainty, weaken the financial system, and affect the government's capacity to finance for public spending. It can further push the poor and marginalized groups into extreme poverty and widen the inequalities in the long run. Mr. Chair, taking this into consideration, the government of Nepal has concentrated its efforts towards minimizing negative effects through necessary and appropriate plans, policies, and measures to better understand the impact of the pandemic We are having an socio-economic impact study currently. If needed, we are open to change the plans, policies, and targets. The government of Nepal has introduced health safety measures and a relief package targeting daily wage earners, poor and other vulnerable people, which is being implemented through the local bodies. Likewise, to address the mounting economic crisis, tax rebates and facilities of delayed payment of taxes were provided to the business and industrial community. The concessional loan facilities were provided to the severely affected sectors. Central Bank has announced liquidity support, interest subsidy, and a relaxation lending to the private sector. Also, the refinancing facility was focused on small business and industry. As a part of relief to the wage earners and other people who lost their job due to lockdown, a scheme of direct employment such as the Prime Minister's Employment Program, Prime Minister's Agriculture Modernization Project, and other programs at the subnational level were announced by the budget, among others. Mr. Chair, now the lockdown has been relaxed, facilitating operation of all economic activities following social distancing norms and health safety measures. In this context, we will need a coordinated response mechanism to minimize the losses and damage, restore economic growth, and a recovery and strengthen resilience. This will take collective action of the government, private sector, cooperative, civil society, Nepali diaspora, development partners, and individual also. We must take action collaboratively to provide access to health services for all, safeguard jobs, protect the vulnerable sectors, and invest in a recovery plan aligned towards achieving the developmental goal and targets in Nepal. Also, it is an opportunity for us to build back better by creating more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive economies and societies, set our actions to make sure no one is left behind. I believe that agriculture, manufacturing, energy, information technology, and infrastructure are the major drivers for reviving the economy, generating employment, and enhancing resilience of the economy. Now the government is planning to reorient available resources to augment human capabilities, increase the public spending on agriculture, manufacturing, and infrastructure, and collaborate with private sectors, cooperatives, and civil society to leverage each other's strength. This will definitely help to attain the targets of 15th plan and scheduled sustainable development goals as well. The pandemic has impacted on our hopes, aspiration, mobility, activity, and speed. The major challenge in this situation is creating the hope in the people. In this context, the experts of various disciplines from across the country and the Nepali diaspora outside the country can bring immense benefits from their knowledge, technical know-how, and investment to control the COVID-19, revive the economy, and implement the government plan. This is the expectation of the government from this gathering, and Nepalese spread all over the world. Finally, I wish you a productive and successful discussion and look forward to the important discourses and deliberations of this convention ahead. I thank you all. Thank you, Chair, and namaste.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next speaker will be Dr. Subakar Dakal. Subakar sir, ready हुनुहुन्छ?
Yes, I'm more ready, sir.
Yes, sir. Dr. Subakar Dakal, Asian Institute of Technology को School of Environment, Resources and Development को डिन हुनुहुन्छ. Dr. Dakal IPCC को 5औं र 6औं एसेसमेन्ट रिपोर्टको लिड अथर पनि हुनुहुन्छ. तथा उहाँ हाल ग्लोबल कार्बन प्रोजेक्टको स्टियरिङ कमिटी मेम्बर पनि हुनुहुन्छ. सुरु गरौँ.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yes,
Vishwaji,
I can see.
Thank you.
Dr. Saris, कतिवटा सबैले देख्नु भएको छ नि हैन?
Yes, we can see. Presentation mode. Good, fine.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank NRN community, and also first of all, with permission of Chair, Honorable Dr. Yuvraj Khatioraji, let me present today, this afternoon, some of the work that we are doing, which is ongoing with a group of international researchers. We started this small, voluntary group of researchers from around the world. We were quite looking at what would be the impact of COVID-19 in achieving Nepal's sustainable goal. Just now also, Honorable Vice Chairman of National Planning Commission already mentioned that Nepal had made lots of progresses and lots of good outcomes are already there. Now, with this COVID situation, we expect lots of changes or lots of challenge and opportunity imposed. So in this particular study that I'm going to share with you, we are going to share the preliminary findings of the ongoing study. That's why I put this title as Challenges and Opportunities Posed by the COVID-19 to Achieve Nepal's Sustainable Development Goals. Again, this work is being done by a group of committed voluntary researchers from 10 countries, Nepalese researchers. And this work is being coordinated by Dr. Prajal Pradhan, who works at the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research near Berlin in Germany. I'm sure he's also attending this as an audience there. So this is a group of a large number of colleagues. So I think we don't need any introduction here. What is Sustainable Development Goal? All of us know very well that we have 17 goals endorsed by UN General Assembly Sustainable Development Conference in 2015. Out of these 17 goals, most of these goals are very much relevant to Nepal, except perhaps one goal, which is life below water, goal number 14, since we are landlocked country. So that particular goal is not very relevant to us. Otherwise, all other goals where the world has committed that world will make substantial change by 2030 with a well-defined set of goals and indicators. So underneath these 17 indicators, there are over 170 targets are there under each of these goals. And just now, Honorable Vice Chairman of the National Planning Commission already mentioned that Nepal already has internalized these SDGs into the Nepal's development planning. And these goals and the accompanying targets under these goals have already been localized in Nepal, not only at national context, but also the localization inside our internal operation of the country. So given that fact, we have made progress on number of fronts, which the Honorable Vice Chairman already mentioned. In some area, we have our trends are good. We have made progress, but in some area, our progress has been slow. I'm sharing this one slide coming out from the Sustainable Development Report, which is produced under the leadership of Professor Jeffrey Sachs at Columbia University. For Nepal, this particular, but the way it is defined could be a little different. But in line with the Honorable Vice Chairman mentioned that we have made progress on number of fronts. In some area, maybe we need to do more, but we are on the track. But definitely we need to put more effort. Now, given that trend of SDG where we need to excel, now the COVID situation has created lots of disturbance. This is just data I pulled from today, 1 hour ago, from our health ministry. You can see that now it is accelerating in Nepal, and there is lots of concerns, and this has disrupted lots of activities. When we started lockdown, we completely shut down, but now a lot of things are open, but also it has seriously impaired our life, our economy, our transportation, and basically almost all sector. Now, given our progressing sustainable development goals, and now this COVID situation has created a disturbance, we just try to look at what this impact means to this SDG and where lies those key challenges and what are the opportunities. Can we transform these challenges into the opportunities. And also during this course of this research, we were also looking to develop an expert network who can carry on further detailed work on such kind of sustainable impact in the future. So one of the goal of this exercise was also to create some kind of an expert network composing researchers, experts who are in Nepal, also who are overseas. So when we started doing this research, we started with a rapid assessment. But I just want to mention to you that this is research done on the expert judgment and rapid assessment. So basically, we followed various steps, basically 5 steps. The first we organized an online questionnaire survey. Around 400 responses from key stakeholder groups were obtained for all these 17 goals. Then after that, we look at what response we have received. Then we organized 20 workshops, at least one workshop for each SDGs. So we organized 20 workshops. More than 300 participants participated in those workshops. Then now we are at the stage of assessing what we obtained from this questionnaire survey, also from expert workshop. Then we are in the process of validation of our findings, what we have obtained with the experts. Then we'll do revision and we'll produce a report, a paper very soon. But at the moment, we have the preliminary findings, and those preliminary findings are the ones which I'm going to share today. So if you look at the framework, what we used the framework, very easy framework, where there are different set of restraining versus complementing sort of concept. For example, how COVID-19 pandemic would constrain achievements of the goal, how it will how kind of counteracting effect it will have on achievement of the SDG goal. Does it produce some kind of cancelling effect, or does it actually enable SDG goals, or does it reinforce, or is it good? So the idea in this framework here is that I'll give with one example just to clarify whether the pandemic acts as a constraining factor, restraining factor, or some kind of supporting factor. So that is a framework we use. Again, it's a rapid assessment framework based on the expert judgment. So just to give you an example, let's see SDG goal number 13, which is climate action. So SDG goal number 13 has many different targets. There are 5 targets under the SDG 13, which is a climate action target. Now, again, what we are asking here is that we are trying to see now for goal number 13, what does pandemic do? Will it promote SDG achievements, or will it restrict SDG achievement? At what scale? So there is some scaling parameters. Again, idea is that we want to see the direction of impact and the mechanism of impact and different time frame in which those impact will happen. In the short term means for 1 year, midterm means next 5 years, and the long term means by 2030, which is a target of SDG. So that is a sort of framework we used, and we carried out survey, and this is kind of example of the survey experts filled in the survey. Then based on those survey, we did our analysis. And if you look at this figure here, we have 366 survey participants and 302 workshop participants, 20 workshops we organized, and they constitute a good mix of different stakeholders coming from academia and research, government, civil society, independent expert, private sector, NGO, and civil society. So the composition, what I'm going to present you is basically coming out collectively from this exercise. Now let me quickly go to the results. So this basically summarize how the COVID-19 will act in short, mid, and long term. So what do we find here is COVID-19 has basically restricting impacts on most SDGs in the short term. If you see short term panel here, you see there is lots of red color. So the color pattern here is that if you see more red color, that means these are more restricting. And if you see more, bluish kind of color, you see that these are sort of enabling. But what we see in general is that COVID-19 is basically restricting in short term, but some of these impacts might also persist in mid and long term. And you see lots of these, green bars in the long term, which basically tells us that there are opportunities to turn effect of COVID or the COVID experience into the opportunities. And these opportunities are the one which we need to focus, and then we can look at what needs to be done in order to turn these potential opportunities into the reality. Now, this is a little difficult to see this figure, and my apologies for putting a bit of a cramped figure. This basically reinforced the same thing what I said. For each SDGs, there are a number of indicators. Let's look at here, let's say SDG 1. So SDG 1 has around 6-7 indicators, right? For this each SDG, targets, which particular SDG target will have, enabling or which are constraining. So we have really mapped out. But what I want you to look at here is that all the blue dots you see here are on the bottom, which are short term. So which basically means that in the short term, in all SDG goals and almost all SDG targets, these are in the negative front, which means that they have basically restricting factors in order to achieve different SDG goals. But also you can see that in some case, some of the parameters even might be better, particularly a pandemic would be helping in terms of some of the health issues, particularly health awareness and some other things. So in some cases, they have also become little positive there. Now these are complex a set of those figures that you see there. But let me highlight what are the key challenges which we achieve, which we realized, and also how the challenges actually offer the restricting effects on SDGs. Yes.
तपाईसँग 2 मिनेट छ है
हजुर हस्
Okay.
I thought I had 25 minutes.
Yeah, you can go on, Ranjit.
Okay,
Don't worry. Sure. We have at least 15 more minutes for him, actually. 2 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you. So one of the key challenges all the participants and this study has brought forward is a slowdown of economy, which is not surprising. But now this impact of slowdown on economy has lots of restricting effect on SDGs through reduced revenue, through delayed upgrading of infrastructures, and the suboptimal production leading to inefficiencies. So slowdown of economy has affect a large number of SDGs which deal with some of these sectors. Second important challenge which also appear in this study is under and unemployment in different sectors, either formal economy, informal economy, either in national or international labor market where Nepalese workforce are there, and that collectively is affecting reduced food accessibility, increased human pressure on natural ecosystem and forest, and reduce the purchasing power of the households, including its attributes on the health, education, and other basic services. So basically means that underemployment and unemployment is actually affecting a number of the SDGs. We know from SDG 1 to 17, particularly on the food, natural ecosystem, and the forest, because there's a lot of link there. For example, when there is a lack of access to energy, maybe people use more forest and have a drain on the natural ecosystem. So that is one major part. Also, the one important challenge is diluted focus and funds on other issues. Since we focus so much on the health issue in the long run, there are lots of other important issues where the efforts has been sort of stagnated. For example, extreme climate events, disaster management, environment and nature protection, maintaining public space, and particularly for the media and civil society watching lots of other aspects of the development. So these are some of the key challenges, and they particularly these points affect on the SDGs. And of course, the disturbance is we have all experienced. There is a lot of disturbance on services, health, justice, agriculture extension, supply chain, and even some of the important things we want to do, for example, Sagarmatha Sambad or the revenue collection, education and teaching. Now, these disturbances has, again, in the short term, has affected many SDGs, particularly dealing with these points. Now, travel restriction has also had a lot of impact, not only limited to the mobility as such, but also a lot of health issue, increased mental and physical health issues, increased violence against children and women, also digital divide, particularly the rich and poor, urban and rural, male and female. So travel restriction as a challenge is expected to play restricting effects on many SDGs dealing with health, education, and livelihood issue. Then the reduced financial and technical support from development partners is there, because lots of donor assistance has been moved toward the COVID things. So a lot of capacity building and other things is likely to affect some kind of restricting effect on SDG. Now, from the opportunity side, during the study, we found that there is a huge opportunity for economic transformation, particularly on going towards the green growth and green recovery plans. Now, we have lots of recovery plans are on offering because economic recovery package. So how do we channel that recovery economic recovery package into the some kind of green economy, or that really pay due attention to the achievement of SDG? So this economic transformation, how do we use the recovery packages is something very, very important. So that is an opportunity. Also, low carbon, environmental friendly development is opportunity here, because we have learned a lot from air pollution, reduction, also the mobility restriction. So then we have a lot to learn how to optimize our energy, how to optimize our travel, how to do other things by ourselves, how not to travel less, and particularly e-commerce and digital economy. Lots of even Nepal, you must have experience in daily life. Digital economy has boomed, and the e-commerce and also e-banking, many other sectors have evolved. Then the question is that how to use that as a leverage to use this for economic transformation. This is very important. And also we have, of course, observed raised awareness. People are more aware about nature conservation. People are more aware about hygiene and the sanitation. People are more aware about environmental issues because of our air pollution and other things that we have seen, blue sky over Kathmandu. There is also a lot of cultural shift towards hygiene and sanitation, and also lots of focus on healthy diets, building immune system. Lots of these good things have happened. So these are opportunities so that we transform and we can use this self-awareness into sustained effort for the better living in the future. And also one important point is a reverse migration. There has been lots of reverse migration because of the pandemic, and a lot of, I would call it brain gain. I think this availability of the skilled and semi-skilled workforce for different sectors and retaining this workforce for productive economy is something opportunity for us. Of course, the role of government, also role of NRNA and diaspora community to invest knowledge and money is something very important in that opportunity. Now, one important transformation opportunity is empowering local government. Just before me also, Honorable Vice Chairman of National Planning Commission mentioned to us that localization of SDG has really important aspects, and lots of decentralization and other things has happened. Now, because of this pandemic, we have learned better how to work between local governments, state governments, and the federal government, and also how the role sharing need to be done, and how the financial needs and capacity building and devolution is important. It's not only constitutional provision, but also operationalizing this constitutional provision so that the local authorities, local governments are empowered, and they can kickstart local economic development, taking more roles and responsibilities to handle their local economy. So I think this empowerment of local government is something also one opportunities for us for the future. And we have learned to be self-sufficient. Food self-sufficiency, cultivating in your own backyard, urban agriculture, use of domestic technology, capturing the entire local value chain as much as possible, and also even things like efficient waste management, use of modern efficient technology. We have learned to be a little more self-sufficient and self-reflection that something we did in the past was not a good way and something we can change ourselves. So that awareness, that self-reflection, self-sufficiency, that itself is a driver for transformative opportunity that we can tap into. And of course, we don't need to say a lot about ICT technology. Now this era of digitalization, now even in this particular conference would not have been possible without this digital technology. And all of us didn't even have to travel to Kathmandu to attend, and we all are contributing, and we all are sharing our knowledge. So how to increase the role of ICT for education, banking, financial operation, online business, which cause lots of resource saving, travel reduction. So how to do that? I think this is already driver, but now we have to, this driver for transformation opportunities, we have to turn into reality in the future, learning from this COVID. Now, a few pointers for this transformative change I want to highlight is we need to perhaps develop the vision for transformative change for post-COVID Nepal, learning from COVID experience and tapping on some of the transformative opportunities opened by the COVID experience, what kind of visions we can develop to really tap on some of the lessons we learned, some of the society and policy lessons, even the people and the private sector businesses, how to turn that into the post-COVID transformative change. That vision is something very important to realize. And I already mentioned the economic recovery plans and package to pay more attention to SDGs, particularly in the sectors which are more vulnerable. Special package for the vulnerable, disadvantaged groups, and also the better governance, coordination among different level of governance, also not only with the government, but also coordination among government, civil society, private sector, and society in general. So these are very important pointers for that. And I already mentioned mechanism to support returnee would be a very good in order to contribute to the economy, because this reverse migration, if we can turn into some kind of economic point, then I think we all will benefit. Now, maybe government policy need to look at earlier on thought this digital economy, whether it is banking service, whether it is online education, whether it is reducing need to travel and making our system efficient. So in all sector, evolving new kind of business, evolving new kind of industry around it. I already mentioned last slide is that there is a raised awareness. Now, how to translate that raised awareness for sustainable practices? I think what kind of policy we need there, something important for us to think, and of course how to channel money. Now the lots of money from national and international sources, how to mobilize this fund. So these are some of the pointers we can think of for transformative change. So with that, let me quickly now summarize. Essentially, this study, which is carried out by a large number of researchers from different countries, based on the rapid assessment survey of many experts, online survey, then followed on with the set of the workshop, 2020 workshop, and then scoring and all identifying mechanism. We basically found that, of course, COVID-19 do have negatively impacted all our SDGs in the short term, but in the mid to long run, these impacts will subside. But important is that, if you remember my earlier one of the slides, that we have lots of transformative opportunities. But in order to realize those transformative opportunities, we have to do many things. Particularly, we have to still identify, utilize, and implement those transformative opportunities. And we have to first identify, but we already see there are lots of potentials. There are immense opportunities. Now, how we have to work hard to realize these opportunities with supporting fiscal, regulatory, economic policies, partnership, coordination, governance, and funding. But what is important here, we like to highlight as a group of researchers carrying out this research, is also the evidence-based policymaking is very crucial. And this evidence-based policymaking can help transform Nepal into our aspiration of prosperous Nepal and happy Nepal. And in that particular role, the NRNA community and diaspora can play a very important role in the post-COVID Nepal for economy, knowledge, and skill, particularly even from outside. Lots of investment and lot of knowledge and skill can be imparted in the country. So with this, let me stop here. And again, I would like to emphasize and thank 45 colleagues who has contributed this work. And again, this work is not the finished work. This is just a preliminary findings that we are sharing with you. We are in the process of finalizing and synthesizing the report that will come out in next 1 or 2 months. Thank you so much.
विशेष सर तपाईं अनम्युट गर्नु पर्यो।
थ्याङ्क्स डाक्टर ढकाल। यसपछिको हाम्रो स्पिकर नरेन्द्र जोशीज्यू हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँ हाम्रो पूर्व उद्योग मन्त्री हुनुहुन्थ्यो सन् 2016 देखि 17 सम्म र सन् 2008 देखि 2013 सम्म नेपाली कांग्रेसको संसदीय दलको प्रवक्ता पनि हुनुहुन्थ्यो। उहाँ गणेशमान सिंह प्रतिष्ठानसँग आबद्ध हुनुहुन्छ र गणेशमान सिंह प्रतिष्ठानले कोभिड-19 को इम्प्याक्टको बारेमा स्टडीहरू पनि गराएको छ। सो नरेन्द्र दाइ।
हस्, धन्यवाद। सबै नमस्कार। सर्वप्रथम त म एनआरएनएलाई हार्दिक धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। मलाई यस्तो महत्त्वपूर्ण कार्यक्रममा सहभागी हुने अवसर दिनुभयो र म एनआरएनएका सबै विदेशमा रहेका सबै साथीहरूलाई, नेपाली दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरूलाई उहाँले जुन योगदान गर्नुभएको छ, विदेशमा पनि कोभिडले समस्यामा परेकाहरूलाई सहयोग गर्नुभयो र नेपालमा पनि केही सहयोग पुर्याउनुभयो। भूकम्पदेखि लिएर आजसम्म म तपाईँहरूको हेरिरहेको छु, त्यसलाई धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। म एनआरएनएका साथीहरूलाई भन्न चाहन्छु, तपाईँहरूले धेरै कुरा देख्नु भएको छ, धेरै कुरा भोग्नु पनि भएको छ, धेरै कुरा अनुभव गर्नु भएको छ। त्यो अनुभूति जुन गर्नुभएको छ त्यो हाम्रो देशमा कसरी लागू गर्ने, कार्यान्वयन गर्ने, त्यसका लागि तपाईँहरूको अथक प्रयास रहनु छ भन्ने विश्वास दिन चाहन्छु। तपाईँहरूको त्यो ज्ञानलाई हाम्रो देशको कन्टेक्स्टमा ल्याइदिनु होला। अहिले भर्खर हाम्रो डाक्टर सभाकरजीले जुन प्रस्तुति गर्नुभयो, हाम्रो साह्रै राम्रो प्रस्तुति थियो। त्यसैले मलाई लाग्छ यो ज्ञानलाई हाम्रो देशमा कार्यान्वयन हुने गरिकन लिएर आइदिनका लागि पनि म आग्रह गर्न चाहन्छु। यो तपाईँहरूको संस्थालाई मैले यो आर्थिक संस्थाको रूपमा मात्र नै समग्र एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण संस्थाको रूपमा हेरेको छु र तपाईँले संस्थालाई एउटा राज्यले भरोसा गर्न सक्ने, आम नागरिकको बृहत्तर हितलाई हेरिरहने, दलीय पूर्वाग्रह नराख्ने र राष्ट्रका गौरवका लागि समर्पित हुने संस्थाको रूपमा विकसित अझ गर्दै जान सक्नुहोस्। म यसको शुभकामना पनि दिन चाहन्छु। र मलाई लाग्छ म आर्थिक रूपमा तपाईँहरूले जुन यो समुन्नत नेपाल र सम्पन्न नागरिकका लागि काम गरिरहनु भएको छ, त्यो सँगसँगै तपाईँले एट लार्ज ब्रोडर फ्रेमवर्कमा डेमोक्रेसीको लागि, फ्रिडम, लिबरल भ्यालुजको लागि, ह्युमन राइट्सका लागि, सिभिल राइट्सका लागि, प्रपर्टी राइट्सका लागि, इन्क्लुजन, रुल अफ ल जस्ता विषयहरूमा पनि प्रवर्धनका लागि तपाईँहरूको महत्त्वपूर्ण भूमिका हुन्छ भन्ने मैले विश्वास लिँदै म आजको, मलाई लाग्छ हामी प्रतिष्ठानबाट पनि गरेका थियौँ अध्ययन, आजको चुनौती भनेको मूलतः जीवन रक्षा, सामाजिक सुरक्षाको सम्वर्धन तथा जीविकोपार्जनको उपायको संरक्षण भने त्यो सँगसँगै सरकारी वित्तीय स्रोतलाई मानवीय साधनमा कसरी लगानी गर्न प्रोत्साहित गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने दोस्रो हो भने त्यसो अर्थतन्त्रलाई चलायमान गराउन र रोजगारीको क्षेत्र बढाउन नयाँ उपायको खोजी गर्न आज नेपालमा आवश्यकता छ। त्यो सँगसँगै म यहाँलाई स्मरण गराउन चाहन्छु कि आज हेर्दा हेर्दै भाइरसले हामीलाई आक्रान्त पारेको छ। माघमा जब पहिलो पटक देखियो हामी त्यसलाई सचेत हुनुपर्ने थियो। हामीले नेपालको कन्टेक्स्टमा त्यो वैज्ञानिक विश्लेषणलाई हामीले त्यसका लागि पूर्वाधारहरू तयार गर्नुपर्ने विषयलाई कहिले पनि महत्त्व दिएनौँ जस्तो। हामीले के भन्न थाल्यौँ भने कोभिड नेपालमा हुँदैन, कोभिडबाट डराउनु पर्दैन, नेपाल कोभिड फ्री कन्ट्री हुन्छ भने एउटा जनतालाई सचेतता गराउने काम र जुन वैज्ञानिक विश्लेषणहरू छन् त्यो क्षमतामा निकै कमी छ। म साथीहरूलाई भन्न चाहन्छु यसलाई कसरी तपाईँहरूले सहयोग पुर्याउन सक्नुहुन्छ म त्यसरी हेरेको छु। यसलाई एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण नीति निर्माण र निर्णयकर्तामा जुन किसिमको कमी देखिएको छ र वास्तवमा यो वैज्ञानिक व्यावहारिक र वैज्ञानिक रणनीति अख्तियार गर्ने योग्यता र इमान्दारिता हामीले कसरी बढाउने हो त्यसतर्फ तपाईँहरूको बढी ध्यान जानुपर्छ भन्ने र हाम्रो नेपालको पनि सरकारको पनि ध्यान बढी जानुपर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। त्यसैले हामीले पूर्व तयारी पनि गरेनौँ। आज हस्पिटल कुनै खाली छैन, आज भेन्टिलेटर खाली छैन। सरकारले आज बेहोस नभइकन हस्पिटल नजाने सुझाव दिन बाध्य भएको छ सरकार। त्यो बेलामा लकडाउनका बेलामा आदरणीय हाम्रा चाहिँ यहाँ यो सभापतित्व गरेर आदरणीय हाम्रो डाक्टर युवराजी हुनुहुन्छ। वास्तवमा लकडाउन पछि जसरी एउटा व्यवस्थित रूपमा हामीले क्वारेन्टाइनको लागि ठाउँ छुट्याउनु पर्ने, भेन्टिलेटर जस्ता विषयहरू गर्नुपर्ने त्यो हामीले गर्न सक्यो जस्तो मलाई लागेन। सरकारको स्थिति के रह्यो भने पिसिआर मेसिनसम्म हामीसँग कतिवटा छ र कहाँ छ भन्ने कुरासम्मको जानकारी लिने कुरा हुन सकेन। 9 महिना हुँदाखेरि पनि आज जुन स्थिति छ सुरुमा त सबैलाई समस्या पर्यो तर यो बिचमा तयारी गर्न सकिन्थ्यो भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। त्यसैले एउटा कुरा त यसलाई के भन्दाखेरि पहिले वैज्ञानिक विश्लेषण उसको चाहिँ आधार चाहिँ हामीले लिन सक्यौँ। त्यसलाई लिनका लागि के गर्नुपर्छ अहिले पनि हामीले चाहिँ यो भर्खर फर्स्ट उनी वेबै सिद्धेको छैन भन्ने छ। यसमा हामीले ध्यान दिनुपर्छ। दोस्रो कुरा के हो भने साह्रै नै अहिले गरिबी प्रति व्यवस्था 3टा उद्देश्य मैले राखेको थिएँ। एउटा कोही पनि भोकै नमरुन्। हामीले गणेशमान सिंह अधिवेशनको अध्ययन गर्दाखेरि एउटा कुनै पनि संस्थाहरू बन्द नहुन् र श्रमिक कृषक र यो चाहिँ जसलाई चाहिँ आवश्यक पर्छ नयाँ चाहिँ रूपमा उनीहरूले चाहिँ व्यवस्थित रूपमा चाहिँ गर्ने भन्ने एउटा उद्देश्य लिएको थियो। त्यो मलाई अहिले के लाग्छ भने सबैभन्दा बढी समस्या अहिले यद्यपि हाम्रो जिडिपीका कुराहरू हाम्रा धेरै कुराहरू राम्रा इन्डिकेटर्सहरू होलान् तर मलाई एउटा प्रश्न, म त अब अर्थशास्त्री होइन, अर्थशास्त्रको एउटा विद्यार्थी मात्रै हुँ। एउटा के लाग्छ भने यो गरिब र जोखिममा परेकाहरूलाई साँच्चीकै हामीले के व्यवस्था गर्यौँ त? हाम्रो जिडिपीको यत्रो चाहिँ उ गऱ्यौँ, हामी यस्तो राम्रो गरेका छौँ भनेर भन्छौँ। यो भावी दिनमा पनि कसरी सम्बोधन गर्ने यो व्यवस्था गर्न सकेनौँ भने त्यसलाई ठुलो असर चाहिँ अहिले कसलाई परेको छ भने जो आर्थिक रूपमा चाहिँ पछाडि परेका छन्, गरिब छन्, जो जोखिममा परेका छन्, उनीहरूको आम्दानी घटेको छ, आम्दानी नहुने स्थिति सिर्जना भएको छ, रोजगारी खोसिएको छ, स्वास्थ्यमा पनि उसमा बढी असर छ। आज हामी हस्पिटलमा गएर चाहिँ ट्रिटमेन्ट गर्न लागि 7-8 लाख एउटा बिरामीले चाहिँ ट्रिटमेन्ट गर्न लाग्छ। कतिपय त्यो डरले पनि हस्पिटल जाने स्थिति छ। 100 किलोमिटर महिला बच्चाहरू हिँडेर गएको स्थिति हामीले देख्यौँ। रत्न पार्कमा भोकै बस्नु पर्यो भनेर चाहिँ लाइन लागेर दाताहरूबाट चाहिँ हात थापेर खानु परेको आज स्थिति चाहिँ हामीले देख्यौँ। यो कयौँ व्यक्तिले आत्महत्या गरेको, यो भोकै मर्नुपर्ने बाध्यता भएको यो परिस्थितिबाट चाहिँ हामी सबै यसमा मैले यसबाट कसरी उम्किने, यसबाट कसरी बाहिर आउने ठुलो चाहिँ मलाई लाग्छ यसप्रति कुनै चिन्ता रणनीति चाहिँ मैले पाइनँ। त्यसैले यसका लागि चाहिँ हामीसँग बढी चाहिँ संवेदनशील भएर हुनुपर्छ कि त्यो गरिबलाई चाहिँ कसरी खान दिने भन्ने प्रति कहिलेकाहीँ मलाई के लाग्छ भन्दाखेरि कि यो यसलाई हामीले विचार गर्न सकेनौँ भने मलाई लाग्छ हाम्रो धेरै सङ्ख्या अहिले 31.2% गरिबी हुने भन्ने छ। आज यो रूपमा जुन रूपमा बढेको छ त्यसतर्फ हाम्रो ध्यान जानु छ। यसतर्फ म नारायणका सबै साथीहरूलाई पनि ध्यान लानका लागि सरकारलाई पनि आग्रह गर्न चाहन्छु। त्यस्तै अर्को के छ भन्दाखेरि मूल रूपमा अर्को एउटा सुशासन। हामीले यो सुरुमै प्रतिष्ठानले के भनेका थियौँ भने एउटा सामाजिक परिचालन समिति गठन गरौँ। त्यो सामाजिक परिचालनमा सबै राजनीतिक दल, नागरिक समाज, विद्युत समुदाय, इन्डिभिजुअल ग्रुप्स बसौँ र त्यसले एउटा गाउँ तहसम्म, वडा तहसम्म त्यसले चाहिँ राहत आवश्यक कसलाई छ, कसलाई चाहिँ के पर्छ र गरौँ एउटा यो राष्ट्रिय समस्या हो हामीले जसरी एउटा नक्साका बारेमा जसरी सर्वसहमतबाट गरौँ त्यसरी जाउँ भन्ने कुराहरू सङ्घ सरकारलाई त्यो जरुरी आवश्यक ठाने सरकारले जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ त्यो गरेको मलाई लाग्छ दुईटा कुरा हामीले प्रस्ताव गरेको एउटा त्यो सामाजिक परिचर्या समिति एउटा चाहिँ कोभिड-19ले जुन किसिमले चाहिँ खर्च हुने जति पनि पैसाहरू छन् त्यसको लागि भिन्दै एउटा समिति बनाऊ जहाँ एक्सपर्ट पोलिटिकल मान्छे नराखौँ जहाँ सरकारका मान्छे इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट मान्छेहरू जो एक्सपर्टहरू त्यो राखेर गरेको भए सरकार किनभने यो बेलामा जनताको विश्वास जित्न आवश्यक बेला हो जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ जनताको भरोसाको केन्द्रका रूपमा जनताले मलाई अप्ठ्यारो पर्दा हेर्ने सरकार सबैले भन्ने रूपमा र यो बिचमा सबै राजनीतिक दलहरू दिएर सबैको आम नागरिकको रक्षाको लागि उभिएका छन् भन्ने जुन देखाउनु पनि थियो हामीले त्यो मिस गरेको जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ र त्यसैले के भन्दाखेरि यो महामारीको सन्दर्भमा आज वास्तवमा जनताले सरकारविहीन अवस्थाको स्थिति किनभने राहत वितरण सुरुमा भयो अहिले राहत कुनै पनि प्राप्त भएको छैन आज स्वास्थ्य सामग्रीमा देखिएको भ्रष्टाचारको कुरा कमिसनका कुराहरू अरू कतिपय ठाउँमा कालाबजारले चाहिँ देखाएको कमिसनखोरहरूको कुराहरूले वास्तवमा के भन्दाखेरि यो साह्रै एउटा उदेक लागु स्थिति आज चाहिँ छ त्यसले जनतालाई उत्साहित बनाउन सकेनौँ भने जनताले भरोसा गर्न सकेन भने जनता थप मार्न पर्ने हुन्छ अब कस्तोसम्म देखियो भने शक्तिमा रहेका पुलिसवालाले लकडाउनका बेला पनि काठमाडौँ आउनका लागि 5,000 तिर्यो भने पास किन्न पाउने भनेर विषय टेस्ट नगर्ने भनेर अथवा के भने यो सबै नियम सहज रूपमा तोड्न सकिन्छ भन्ने किसिमको एउटा इम्प्रेसन जुन भयो र हामीले जुन बेला लकडाउन भनेर गरेका थियौँ काठमाडौँ प्रवेश या काठमाडौँभित्र आउनलाई PCR टेस्टिङका कुरा गरेका थियौँ त्यो हामीले गर्न सकेनौँ हामीले सुझाव पनि दिएका थियौँ यो उप प्रधानमन्त्रीजीलाई दिएका थियौँ हामी त्यो बेलामा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय रूपमा भारतदेखि लगायत विदेशबाट आउनेहरूलाई क्वारेन्टाइनको राम्रो व्यवस्था गरौँ एकैचोटि फ्लक्स आउँछ है त्यसमा समस्या पर्न सक्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ स्थानीय सरकार सङ्घीय सरकार र प्रदेश सरकारको चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ कोअर्डिनेसन पनि भएन कोअर्डिनेसन गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुराहरू पनि हामीले चाहिँ त्यसमा राखेको थियौँ त्यस्तै के भन्दाखेरि यो कोभिड-19 बारे अहिले पनि वास्तवमा धेरै देशमा हामीले प्रधानमन्त्री राष्ट्रपति स्वयं आएर यसका बारे चाहिँ इन्फर्मेसन दिने कुराहरू वास्तवमा नेपालमा त्यो पनि हुन सकेन यो विषम उसमा कहिले मलाई के लाग्छ यहाँ अर्थमन्त्री पूर्व अर्थमन्त्री हुनुहुन्छ सरकारको प्राथमिकता नै त्यो चाहिँ परेन कि जस्तो चाहिँ देखियो त्यसैले मलाई के लाग्छ भने ठुलो कुरा त्यसको प्रभाव तत्कालीन यो चाहिँ प्रभाव चाहिँ दैनिक जीवनयापनमा चाहिँ परेको छ र त्यसमा पनि गरिब र निमुखा जनतालाई चाहिँ असाध्यै ठुलो दबाव परेको छ आज करिब 44 लाख मानिसहरू अनौपचारिक क्षेत्रमा काम गर्छन् धेरैले रोजगारी गुमाएको अवस्था छ अब सामान्य अवस्थामा पनि 3-4 महिना खान पाउने अवस्था भएकाहरूको चाहिँ आज इन्डियामा फेरि चाहिँ परिवार समेत गएको हामीले चाहिँ दृश्य देख्यौँ टेलिभिजनहरूमा चाहिँ जानुपर्ने स्थिति किन आए बसे तर केही पनि काम छैन यहाँ खानको लागि मुस्किल भयो त्यसमा चाहिँ त्यो समस्या चाहिँ आयो जस्तो लाग्छ त्यस कारण पनि अब करिब थप 35 लाख चाहिँ गरिबी बढ्ने आँकडा चाहिँ आएको छ भनेपछि यो अब यो गरिबी बढ्यो भने पनि यसले बहुआयामिक रूपमा प्रभाव पार्दछ त्यसैले हाम्रो कुराहरू गर्नुभयो हजुर
2 मिनेट
ल म एसटिजीका जुन कुराहरू गर्नु यसले हाम्रो दिगो विकासका लक्ष्यलाई पनि धेरै असर पार्छ त्यसले एउटा चुनौती के भने गरिबीलाई कसरी घटाउन सकिन्छ भन्ने चुनौती हो हाम्रो मुख्य प्रभाव उद्योग पर्यटन क्षेत्र र कृषिमा एउटा गरिबी र छ भने उद्योग पर्यटन क्षेत्र र कृषिमा चाहिँ यसको ठुलो प्रभाव परेको छ कृषिमा हामीले बिउ पाएनौँ मल पाएनौँ भनेर चाहिँ कृषकहरू चाहिँ त्यत्रो लाइन लागेर चाहिँ रासायनिक मल चाहिँ पाएनौँ भन्ने कुराहरू छ उद्योगमा चाहिँ वास्तवमा आज समस्याको रूपमा चाहिँ हामी देखेको छौँ म छोटो गर्दैछु त्यसैले के भन्दाखेरि मलाई लाग्छ हामीले अब म के गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ भन्ने कुराहरू राख्न चाहन्छु हामी वास्तवमा केमा रकम छुट्याउने आज अर्थमन्त्रीबारे भन्न मन लागेर केमा रकम छुट्याउने र त्यो रकम कसरी खर्च गर्ने भन्ने विषयमै हामी चाहिँ स्पष्ट भएनौँ कि जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ अहिले हामीले हेरेँ मैले भर्खर हेर्दै थिएँ विकास खर्च अहिले चाहिँ लगभग 4% चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ यो 3 महिनाको चाहिँ लगभग 3 महिना हुन लाग्यो चाहिँ जम्मा 4% चाहिँ खर्च भएको चाहिँ स्थिति रहेछ अब उद्योग व्यवसायहरूले कुनै कुरा हाम्रो सुनिएन भनेर गुनासो उद्योग व्यवसायको रूपमा चाहिँ छ अहिले यत्रो चाहिँ अस्थायी कर्मचारीहरू भर्ना भएको हामी के भनेका थियौँ भन्दाखेरि फिजुल खर्च जुन छ कम्तीमा चाहिँ त्यो फिजुल खर्च कतिपय समितिहरू छन् सायद सरकारले बनाएको समितिले पनि 113वटा समिति चाहिँ खारेज गर्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ गरेको थियो एउटा साहसिक रूपमा चाहिँ काम गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुराहरू छ अब आन्तरिक र बाह्य ऋण पनि अहिले यत्रो बढ्यो 6 खरब थियो भन्दा अगाडि सायद 2 वर्ष अगाडि अहिले 13 खरब पुगेको छ लगभग एउटा नेपालीले 46,000 को चाहिँ ऋण बोक्नु परेको छ त्यसले मेरो विचार गरी सरकारले मन्त्रालय लगायत बजेट विनियोजनमा प्राथमिकता परिवर्तन गर्न आवश्यक जुन उपाध्यक्षज्यूले पनि सायद राख्नुभयो त्यो कुरालाई र स्वास्थ्य शिक्षा कृषि रोजगारी तथा पूर्वाधार निर्माणमा चाहिँ खर्च बढाउन आवश्यक छ भन्ने लाग्छ। दोस्रो कुरा कार्यक्षमतामा अभिवृद्धि गर्न आवश्यक छ। भ्रष्टाचार नियन्त्रण गरी पारदर्शिता अपनाउन आवश्यक छ। मैले भने फजुल खर्च हटाउन आवश्यक छ। एनआरएनलाई चाहिँ देशभित्र लगानी गर्नका लागि प्रोत्साहित गराउने, प्रविधि भित्राउने, प्रेरित गर्न चाहिँ आवश्यक छ। त्यस्तै के हो भन्दाखेरि आयात प्रतिस्थापन उद्योग हुन त अब आयात एकदम हाम्रो चाहिँ निर्यात बढ्यो आयात घट्यो भन्ने छ, तर आयात हाम्रो कुनै हाम्रो चाहिँ आफ्नो प्रोडक्सनका कारणले घटेको होइन। हामीले चाहिँ हाम्रो इन्डस्ट्री डेभलपमेन्ट भएर घटेको पनि होइन हो। हाम्रो इकोनोमिक एक्टिभिटिज नभएर जुन आयात घट्यो त्यसलाई एकदम ठुलो उपलब्धिका रूपमा चाहिँ प्रस्तुत गर्नेको देखियो। त्यसैले मलाई के लाग्छ भन्दाखेरि अहिले चाहिँ हामी के भन्दाखेरि यो डेली कन्जम्सनका कुराहरू होस्, कृषिका हाइब्रिड बिउहरू हुन्, मलको व्यवस्थाहरू हुन्, निर्माण सामग्री हुन्, यी उद्योगहरूलाई चाहिँ हामी लिएर आउँ। त्यसले चाहिँ आयात प्रतिस्थापन गर्छ भन्ने लाग्छ। बढी ऊर्जा खपत हुने उद्योगहरू चाहिँ लिएर आउँ, त्यसले चाहिँ हाम्रो ऊर्जालाई पनि सहयोग गर्छ। त्यस्तै हामीले अर्को चाहिँ रोजगारी सृजना हामी चाहिँ गर्ने कामहरू गरौँ। भारतबाट मात्र 20 अरब करोड बिजुली खिच्यो यसबाट। हामीले हाइड्रो पावरमा अझै इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गरेर त्यसलाई चाहिँ पोलिसी लेभलमा लोकल कन्फ्लिक्टहरू छन्, गभर्नेन्स राम्रो छैन, यस्ता विषयमा सरकारले चाहिँ ध्यान दिन सक्यो भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। त्यसमा एनआरएनले पनि धेरै लगानी चाहिँ गर्न सक्छ। मैले एउटा लगानी सम्मेलन गरेको थिएँ जुन बेला म मन्त्री थिएँ, त्यसमा 14 खरबको कमिटमेन्ट आएको थियो। त्यसमा हाम्रो नेपालमा पैसा लगानी गरेर नाफै हुन्छ मात्र होइन कि हाम्रो नेपाललाई माया गर्ने पनि छन् भन्ने धेरै त्यो बिजनेसम्यानलाई भेट्थेँ। चाहिँ गैर नेपाली आवासीय नेपाली साथीहरूसँग मेरो चाहिँ त्यो बेला चाहिँ धेरै उहाँले समिति पनि राखेको थिएँ। समितिमा राखेर निर्णय गर्ने ठाउँमै प्रतिनिधित्व गराएको थिएँ। मलाई लाग्छ त्यसरी नै एउटा के भने गैर आवासीय नेपाली र संयुक्त बहुराष्ट्रिय कम्पनी र निजी क्षेत्रलाई चाहिँ सँगै राखेर एउटा चाहिँ यो रोजगारमूलक उद्योगहरू खोल्नलाई लगाउनुपर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। विशेष गरेर उद्योग स्थान अहिले संसारभरि नै उद्योग स्थानान्तरणको विषय आएका छन्। चीनमा मात्रै कन्सेन्ट होइन, अरू ठाउँमा पनि जानेर यसपालि भारतमा मात्र सायद मलाई लाग्छ 23 बिलियन डलर्सको चाहिँ उद्योगहरू चाहिँ स्थापना गर्नु। हामीले ती उद्योगहरूलाई नेपालमा यस्तो पोलिसी बनाऊ कि त्यसलाई अट्र्याक्ट गर्नु, नेपालमा उद्योग खोल्न चाहिँ अट्र्याक्सन गर्न सकिन्छ। त्यस्तै यो के भन्छ बहुराष्ट्रिय चेन भएका उद्योगलाई नेपालमा चाहिँ शाखा स्थापना गर्न हामी चाहिँ प्रोत्साहित गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने लाग्छ। त्यस्तै मलाई के लाग्छ भने यो त्यस्तोमा जस्तो समस्या छ हाम्रो उद्योगहरू खोल्न, बन्दरगाहहरूको कलकत्ता बन्दरगाहको समस्या छ। यसमा डिप्लोमेटिकल डिल गरेर हामीले चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ, सब्सिडी दिने। हामीले नयाँ रूपमा अरूलाई आकर्षित गर्नका लागि नेपालमा नयाँ चिज छ है, नयाँ कुराहरू हामी प्राप्त गर्छौँ, सहजता छ है, कुनै अप्ठ्यारो छैन भन्ने गभर्नेन्सको कुरा हो। त्यो गभर्नेन्सलाई चाहिँ हामीले अलिकति बलियो बनाउनु पर्छ जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ। त्यसैले अर्को चाहिँ मलाई के लाग्छ भने अहिले हामीले ट्रेनिङको कुरालाई बेसिकली इम्फेसाइज गर्नुपर्छ। किन एनआरएन पनि साथीहरू जो आउनुहुन्छ यहाँ, युथहरूको चोइस, हाम्रो डिमान्ड र युथहरूको चोइसलाई मिलाएर यदि हामीले चाहिँ स्किल चाहिँ हामी ट्रेनिङ दिने हो भने मलाई लाग्छ धेरै महत्त्वपूर्ण भूमिका यसमा एनआरएनले खेल्न सक्छ। ट्रेनिङ क्वालिटी कन्ट्रोलको लागि प्राइभेट सेक्टर र सरकारले चाहिँ कोलाबोरेसन यसमा चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। त्यस्तै सरकारले चाहिँ के भने जो ट्रेनिङ लिएका छन् उनीहरूलाई 1.5 महिनाको तलब चाहिँ 3 महिनाको रोजगार कार्यक्रममा उसले दिने होइन, कम्पनीले दिने होइन, उनीहरूले इन्टर्न गर्ने, त्यसमा 1.5 महिनाको तलब चाहिँ सरकारले दिन सक्छ मलाई लाग्छ। त्यस्तै हामीले डिमान्ड क्रिएट गर्नु जरुरी छ। त्यसको लागि कमसेकम 5 लाख परिवार जुन गरिब छ भनेका छन् त्यसलाई 6 लाख होला, डेटा हामीसँग छैन, 7 लाख होला, 15 अरब दाममा हामी 3 महिनामा खुवाउन सक्छौँ भने ती व्यवस्थाहरू हामीले चाहिँ गर्न आवश्यक छ। अब हेर्नु न 3 खरब भन्दा बढी त हामी इन्डियामा चाहिँ काम गरेकाले लाग्छन् भने त्यसलाई रिप्लेस गर्ने सम्भावना हामीसँग छन् भने हामीले त्यसमा चाहिँ ल्याउनुपर्छ। त्यसलाई इन्भेस्टमेन्ट ल्याउनको लागि हामीले काम गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ। र विशेष गरेर के भन्दाखेरि अब विकास खर्च र चालु खर्चको जुन चाहिँ साह्रै नेगेटिभिटी चाहिँ भएको छ, हामीका फाइनेन्सियल डिसिप्लिनका विषयहरू छन् आज चाहिँ भनौँ। त्यसैले मेरो जोड चाहिँ के भने यसमा म्यानुफ्याक्चरिङ इन्डस्ट्रीलाई चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ अगाडि बढाउनुपर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ मलाई लाग्छ। त्यस्तै यो लघु घरेलु तथा साना उद्योगहरूको प्रवर्धन र उद्यमशीलताको विकास गर्न आवश्यक छ। युवाहरूले प्रोजेक्टहरू लिएर आउँछन्, त्यसमा एनआरएनका साथीहरूले लगानी गर्नुहोस्। त्यसमा चाहिँ के भन्दाखेरि अब हुन त 5 करोड राखिदिएको छ, अब कुनै युवालाई 50 लाख मात्र चाहिन्छ भने अब फरेन ऊ भनिन्छ, त्यसपछि समस्या छ। यस्ता कुराहरू त सरकारले चाहिँ तत्काल गर्न सक्ने कुराहरू जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ। सिप विकास, उपयुक्त प्रविधि, ऋणमा सहज पहुँच र आवश्यकतालाई अनुदान दिने हो भने महिला उद्यमी, युवा उद्यमीहरूलाई हामी चाहिँ ठुलो चाहिँ सहयोग गर्छ। त्यसैले यो चाहिँ के भने उद्योग प्रशासनमा सुशासन संस्थागत रूपमा चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ। एउटा इकोनोमिक पोलिसी हामीले चाहिँ यस्तो एउटा इकोनोमिक पोलिसी तयार पार्नु कि त्यसले चाहिँ के गरोस् भन्दाखेरि विशेष गरेर हाम्रो लगानी हामीले चाहिँ हामीले गर्नुपर्ने अर्थतन्त्रलाई बुस्टअप गर्नको लागि अब हामी कहिले के गर्छौँ पार्टीलाई कसरी बुस्टअप गर्ने कसको इन्ट्रेस्टलाई बुस्टअप गर्ने अर्थतन्त्रलाई बुस्टअप गर्ने किसिमको लिएर आयो मेरो पार्टी पपुलर हुन्छ भनेर के गर्ने भन्दा पनि हाम्रो लङ टर्ममा छ फेरि पनि मैले जोड्न चाहेँ मैले टुङ्ग्याएँ अब कि यो जिडिपीको कुरा हरेक कुराहरू हामी सकारात्मक धेरै कुराहरू देखाउँ तर मेरो सरोकार चाहिँ मानवसँग एउटा व्यक्तिसँग हो एउटा व्यक्तिको जीवनसँग उसको जीवनले यापन गर्न पाउने कि नपाउने उसको जीवनलाई सहजता दिने कि नदिने गुणस्तरीय जीवनको शिक्षा र स्वास्थ्यका आज विशेष गरेर चाहिँ अब स्वास्थ्यमा त एउटा नयाँ चाहिँ मलाई चाहिँ कन्सेप्ट आउँदैछन् यो पछि COVID-19 पछि एउटा ठुलो नयाँ कन्सेप्ट आउँछ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ त्यसले एउटा नयाँ अवसरका रूपमा नयाँ प्रविधिका रूपमा एनआरएनका साथीहरूले चाहिँ नेपालमा चाहिँ लगानी गरेर नेपाललाई चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ सक्षम र सुदृढ राष्ट्र बनाउनु पर्छ यहाँका नागरिकलाई चाहिँ त्यसैले मेरो चाहिँ म अर्थशास्त्री नभएको हुनाले यो अब एउटा चाहिँ के नयाँ क्यालकुलेसन गर्नु भने म अर्थशास्त्री यहाँ हुनुहुन्छ कि गरिबी जनताले खान नपाएको स्थितिसँग तपाईँ जिडिपी कसरी जोड्ने अथवा अरू चाहिँ इन्डिकेटर्सलाई कसरी जोड्नुहुन्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले नयाँ रूपमा चाहिँ सोच्नुपर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ धन्यवाद छ म यहाँहरूलाई फेरि पनि धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु धन्यवाद जय नेपाल
Our next speaker is Dr. Michael Saris. Dr. Saris was the finance minister of government of Cyprus between 2005 and 2008, and also during an eventful period of 2013. He is an excellent economist who had previously worked with Bank of Cyprus, Central Bank of Cyprus, and the World Bank as well. No strangers to economic shocks, Dr. Saris will provide comment on our previous papers, as well as on managing impact of an unanticipated shock such as COVID-19 on economy from global perspective. Over to you, Dr. Saris.
Thanks very much. I'm very honored to be invited to make a short intervention as a panelist. And I also want to congratulate the Nepalese diaspora for this initiative, not just for organizing a conference, but for positioning themselves to play a role in the post-pandemic era. And I say that because one of the elements of success of those countries that dealt more successfully with the health aspects of this crisis were those who took the matter out of the hands of politicians and put them in the hands of doctors and epidemiologists. And those countries that did that in a consistent and transparent way did better. So the lesson is not missed now in many countries. If we can trust the experts to help us deal with the health aspects of this, why not trust them more in designing the economic policy and the business leader response? So this group that has academics, business people, practitioners can play an important role going forward, provided there is receptiveness on the government side. Now, as you know, this has been described as a crisis like no other, because it impacted simultaneously supply and demand. The last crisis in 2008, the legacy of it that in some countries is still with us in terms of non-performing loans and worsening income inequality and fewer opportunities for young people. It was a banking crisis. This one was at the same time a supply and demand crisis with an increased dose of uncertainty. Normally, even in business cycles, even in exogenous shocks, you can have a reasonable amount of certainty and information as to which way this is going and how to respond. So it was, as I said, unprecedented. And there was massive and immediate response. Now the response depended on a number of factors, in some countries on the response capacity of a country. And I mean by response capacity, not just the fiscal space, but the organization, the institutions of people that are going to put and execute and implement a program together. Then the availability of external financing and the possibility of borrowing has been an important factor in the success in dealing with this pandemic. Now, during the response to this problem, a lot of sacred rules have been broken. That is fiscal prudence and monetary stability in terms of the growth rate of credit was something that people wanted to be very careful with, including the increase in private and national debt. Now, the conclusion in many countries, particularly in those countries that had independent central banks, like the United States, the UK, the ECB, they have really gone crazy in printing money and governments in borrowing money. So there has been an unprecedented expansion in fiscal and the monetary stance. In the United States, for example, the stimulus was over 12% of gross national product. By any standards, a massive response. During the crisis, a tension developed about those who wanted to maintain a more serious lockdown and those who wanted to relax more and allow the economy to work, particularly as the costs of the lockdown and the social distancing became apparent, especially in countries that depended on people traveling, countries that depended on tourism, countries that depended on services. And there was a lot of discussion, will the recovery be V-shaped? In other words, will we have a quick recovery that will help us recapture the lost GDP very quickly, or will it be U-shaped? In other words, it will take longer time to get back to where we were. What the facts are showing now is that China, by the end of 2021, will be 10% up of what it was before the crisis, while the United States will be where it was in 2019. In Europe, the picture is very, very mixed. There has been difficulty there in balancing, helping everybody, including those who are unlikely to survive after the crisis. And that is a very important consideration. In the first wave of response, there was a help to maintain incomes and to help businesses across the board, because you cannot rely on market forces to tell you who to help. In the process, the role of government also has been rehabilitated in a number of ways and in many countries. What do I mean by that? The orthodoxy that prevailed of a mixed economy was for this kind of problems for market forces to solve it. But it was clear that market forces could not help, could not solve this problem, but it was up to government to do more. And then the question became, what kind of government? And therefore, there has been more demands for better governance and for institutions that worked in a more transparent way. So there is that pressure now from the people, from society, on government that has a bigger role to also behave better. And there are a number of lines that are coming out of how the recovery would be. And there are words that we hear more and more now. We hear the word green more. The words that have to do with protecting the environment. We were surprised by this crisis and had to spend a lot of money. Why not spend a lot of money now in order to avert the crisis that we know is coming, the climate crisis? The other major development is moving towards a digital economy. It has been mentioned before, it is obvious everywhere where you have to work from a distance. It is important to be able to develop the digital aspects of your economy. And there, a more inclusive recovery. One of the results of this pandemic and the crisis overall is that income inequality, not only among countries, but within countries has worsened. So we need, as has been mentioned by previous speakers, even in the context of Nepal, we need to be more conscious of that. And we need to be more conscious of it also in the context of social stability, because the challenge for democratic governments as they try to impose many things in what might look like undemocratic ways is to have consent, to bring people along in this new ways of dealing with problems. And now, as far as Nepal is concerned in this context, it has been mentioned before, and it is known that the political stability and the post-2015 reconstruction has contributed to fast growth that is now slowing down because of difficulties with agriculture and also with diaspora remittances, which is an important factor. But what are some of the lessons from the world that can be used of Nepal? One is that while fiscal prudence was advised by the IMF and others, perhaps this is the time to err on the side of being more expansionary. We must solve the problems rather than worry about having more debt in the future. And the same is true with bank credit. I think there, although we need to have a prudential approach, at the same time, we need to have credit available for businesses so that they can recover. And most important of all, we need to have the institutions in good health to help implement the right investments. The investments in the country, including to stop floods and landslides. Now is the time, with interest rates low and perhaps international financial assistance more available, to go ahead and do this. And to make sure that FDI plays an important role, so you have a combination of government and private investment. We must go beyond words and changing laws to practical simplifications, to making the private investor feel welcome in material ways, so that this type of investment can help recovery. So let me stop there. I suggest we keep a little time at the end for questions and answers for all panelists. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Sarish. We'll have probably 10 minutes with the permit of chairman of the session for question and answer at the end, 10 minutes. So please hang on. Thanks a lot for your insight. Our next speaker, Dr. Upendra Mahto हुनुहुन्छ। Dr. Mahto एक सफल व्यवसायी र accomplished organizer पनि हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँ NRNA को संस्थापक अध्यक्ष र चिफ प्याट्रन हुनुहुन्छ अहिले। उहाँ हाल रुस नेपाल च्याम्बर अफ कमर्सको अध्यक्ष र बेलारुस गणतन्त्रको नेपालको लागि अनररी काउन्सिल हुनुहुन्छ। डाक्टर महतो।
सभापति महोदय, आदरणीय एवं आत्मीय मित्रहरू, कोभिड को बारेमा कुरा गर्दाखेरि हामीले कोभिडलाई दुई किसिमले लिनुपर्छ। एउटा चाहिँ बिरामी एज अ डिजिज र एउटा इकोनोमिकल डिजिज। म चाहिँ आज कोभिड को डिजिज को बारेमा कुरा गर्न गइरहेको छैन, किनभने कोभिड को डिजिज को बारेमा धेरै कुराहरू भइसकेको छ र धेरैलाई जानकारी पनि भइसकेको छ। फाइनान्शियल डिजिज को जहाँसम्म कुरा छ, हामीले फाइनान्शियल डिजिजमा त्यसको जबसम्म डायग्नोसिस गर्दैनौं र डायग्नोसिस गरेर कंक्रीट रूपमा जब प्रत्येक पेशेन्टको एउटै चाहिँ कोभिड लागेको छ भने एउटै इन्जेक्सन दियो अथवा एउटै भेन्टिलेटरमा पठाइदियो भन्ने हुँदैनन्। त्यसै गरेर इकोनोमीलाई जब बिरामी लाग्छ त्यति बेला हामीले सोच्नु पर्ने के हो भने प्रत्येक क्षेत्रलाई त्यो सेक्टर वाइज भन्दाखेरि जस्तो टुरिज्म सेक्टर भयो, हेल्थ सेक्टर भयो, एजुकेसन सेक्टर भयो भनेदेखि सबैलाई एकै किसिमको बिरामी लागेको छैन। टुरिज्म सेक्टरमा पनि डिफरेन्ट किसिमका बिरामीहरू छन्। तिनीहरूलाई कसरी हामीले इलाज गर्ने त भन्ने बारेमा गभर्नमेन्टले अलि डिटेल सर्वे चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ। र त्यो सर्वे भनेको के हो भनेदेखि जस्तो बिजनेसको एउटा कुनै सेक्टरलाई लिउँ, जस्ट एउटा एजुकेसनलाई लिउँ, त्यहाँ एउटा 20औं वर्षदेखि प्रफिटमा चलाइरहेका संस्थाहरू छन्। कोही भर्खर इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गरेर अब चाहिँ चलाउने अपरेटिङ पोजिसनमा छ, कोही आधा बनाइसकेको छ र उसले अझै बनाउनको लागि नयाँ फाइनान्स चाहिन्छ भनेदेखि गभर्नमेन्टले यदि इकोनोमीलाई बचाउने हो भने सबभन्दा पहिला जो 20 वर्षदेखि कमाइरहेको छ उसले 2 वर्ष कमाएन भने धेरै ठुलो घाटा छ, तर धेरै ठुलो अन्याय नै अत्याचार नै हुँदैन। तर जो भर्खर सुरु गरेको छ उसलाई यदि सपोर्ट गरियो भनेदेखि त्यसले अझै बढी पर्फर्मेन्स गर्छ। जसमा आधा लगानी लगाइसकेको छ र तुरन्तै लागू गर्न सक्दैनन्, त्यसमा धेरै जोर गर्दाखेरि हामीसँग साधन र स्रोतको सीमितता लिमिटेसन भएको हुनाले त्यो गर्न सकिँदैन। त्यसकारण मलाई के लाग्छ भने सरकारले यदि त्यो कुरालाई सेक्टर वाइज कार्पेट डिसिजन होइन, सेक्टरमा पनि छलफल गरेर त्यसमा पनि कुन कुन अवस्थामा त्यसका व्यवसायहरू छन् तिनीहरूलाई ध्यान दिनुपर्छ। र एउटा कुरा के देखियो भने कि अहिले नेपालमा मात्रै होइन संसारभरि यो समस्या छ, तर नेपालमा मैले एउटा के बुझेँ भनेदेखि अझै देशलाई धनी बनाउनु पर्छ भन्ने कुरा कोभिडले देखाइसके। धेरै साथीहरूको भनाइ पनि के छ भने धनी देशहरूमा पनि धेरै मान्छेहरू मरे, धेरै यो कोभिडलाई कन्ट्रोल गर्न सकेन। तर हामीले एज अ डिजिज देश ल्याउनको लागि उनीहरूलाई जति पैसा खर्च गर्नु परे पनि खर्च गर्न सक्ने अवस्थामा पुगे। त्यहाँका व्यवसायी रोजगार क्रिएसनहरूमा बेरोजगारीहरूलाई, गरिबहरूलाई के सुविधा दिन सकिन्छ, कसरी आर्थिक सहयोग गर्न सकिन्छ त्यसमा सक्षम रहे। त्यसकारण गैरावासी नेपाली मित्रहरूलाई म के भन्न चाहन्छु भने कि देशलाई जुन धनी बनाउनु पर्छ, समृद्ध बनाउनु पर्छ, यो कुरा चाहिँ अझै प्रष्ट भएको छ र यसमा तपाईँ हामीले बढी भन्दा बढी सक्रिय रूपमा सहभागी भएर देशलाई समृद्धि बनाउनु पर्छ भन्नेतिर लाग्नुपर्छ। जहाँसम्म उद्योगी व्यवसायी साथीहरूलाई पनि म भन्न चाहन्छु कि देशमा अप्ठ्यारो छ। हामीलाई आफूले केही वर्षसम्म यदि हामीले बिजनेस चलाएर बसिरहेका छौँ, केही आम्दानी गरिरहेका छौँ, केही वर्ष 1-2 वर्ष चाहिँ आम्दानी नगरेर बस्दा पनि तुरन्तै हामीले कराइहाल्नु पर्ने, रोइहाल्नु पर्ने अवस्था क्रिएट नगरिदिउँ। यस्ता क्षेत्रहरूमा स्मल र मिडियम बिजनेस हाउसेसहरूलाई सबै हामी उद्योगी व्यवसायी साथीहरूले जो अलिकता जुन लार्ज इन्डस्ट्रीमा छ तिनीहरूलाई बढी जोड गरौँ, बढी ध्यान दिउँ। र सरकारले पनि केही कुरा गर्दाखेरि आधा दिलले होइन पुरा दिल खोलेर सहयोग गरौँ। जस्तो कति कुराहरू छन्, रिफाइनेन्सिङका कुरा गरौँ। रिफाइनेन्सिङका कुरामा यदि के भनिएको छ भने अहिले नेपालमा लोन रिस्ट्रक्चर गर्नको लागि प्रोभिजन चाहिँदैनन्, तर मैले बुझेअनुसार पहिला चाहिँ रिस्ट्रक्चर गर्दाखेरि 12.5% लाग्नु पर्थ्यो, अहिले 5% गरिदियो। भनेदेखि गरिदियो भने 0% मा गरौँ न। सरकारले या त दिँदैन दिउँ, दिए भनेदेखि यसो दिल खोलेर दिउँ कि त्यसले दिएको जस्तो पनि महसुस होस्, मानिस उत्साहित होस्। यहाँ कस्तो भयो भने दिएको जस्तो पनि भयो, खुट्टा तानेको जस्तो पनि भयो। त्यसकारण यस्तो अवस्थामा, यस्तो गहिरो सङ्कटको बेलामा जबसम्म मानिसमा उत्साह बढाइँदैन, जबसम्म मानिसमा आत्मविश्वास बढाइँदैन, जबसम्म त्यसलाई प्रशंसा गरिँदैन, यो कोभिडको सङ्कटबाट हामी बाहिर निस्किन सक्दैनौँ। किनभने कोभिडको फरक के छ भने अरू बेलामा जुन क्राइसिसहरू भए त्यो सेक्टर वाइज या रिजन वाइज भयो, कोभिड वर्ल्ड वाइड नै भयो। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि कोभिडबाट निस्किनको लागि हामीले जुन साधन स्रोत सीमितता हुँदै पनि त्यसलाई सही सदुपयोग गरेर हामी अगाडि बढ्न सक्छौँ। र अहिले जुन गैरावासी नेपाली मित्रहरूले विश्व ज्ञान सम्मेलन गरिराख्नु भएको छ, त्यसैको दौरानमा यो अहिलेको सेसन छ। त्यसबाट मैले हिजो पनि भनेको थिएँ, आज पनि भन्न चाहन्छौँ, हेल्थ र एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमा व्यावहारिक रूपमा, एकाडेमिक रूपमा भने एकाडेमिक रूप पनि चाहिन्छ, तर व्यावहारिक रूपमा भोलि नै इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन गर्न सकिने किसिमका प्रोजेक्टहरू जसले नेसनको स्केल नै चेन्ज गर्न सक्छन्, नेसनमा एउटा चाहिँ ठुलो चेन्ज ल्याउन सक्छ, आयातलाई रोक्न सकिन्छ, त्यस्ता कुराहरूको प्रोजेक्टहरू अथवा साइन्टिफिक इनोभेसन आइडियाहरू आयो भनेदेखि म आज फेरि भन्दैछु कि त्यसको लागि आर्थिक सङ्कलनको लागि, पुँजी सङ्कलनको लागि म सक्रिय भूमिका खेल्नेछु, आफू पनि राख्नेछु र अरू मित्रहरूलाई पनि त्यसमा राख्नको लागि निमन्त्रणा गर्नेछु। त्यसकारण विज्ञ साथीहरूलाई एग्रिकल्चर र हेल्थ सेक्टर अरू सेक्टरमा पनि धेरै साथीहरू होला, तर दुईटा सेक्टरको लागि म आज पनि त्यो तपाईहरुलाई विश्वास दिलाउन चाहन्छु कि तपाईहरुले ल्याएका कुराहरू इनोभेटिभ आइडिया र तुरुन्तै लागू गर्न सक्ने भयो भनेदेखि त्यसमा म तपाईहरुको साथ छु। र आजको यो सम्मेलनले, आजको यो सेसनले व्यावहारिक रूपमा हामीलाई के कुराहरू सिकाओस्। अवश्य पनि यसको अर्थशास्त्र ज्योतिष शास्त्र जस्तो भएको छ, सबैले अन्दाज मात्रै गर्न सक्छ। कोभिडले के गर्छ, कसो गर्छ, कुन दिन खतम हुन्छ कसैले भन्न सक्दैनन्। तर त्यो अर्थशास्त्रलाई ज्योतिष शास्त्र भए जस्तै भए पनि हामीले अलिकता ज्योतिष शास्त्रमा पनि जुन कङ्क्रिट रूपमा जुन बुझ्ने अन्दाज गर्न सकिन्छ, जसलाई भविष्यवाणी गर्न सकिन्छ, त्यस्ता कुराहरूमा भविष्यवाणी गर्दै जाउँ। सरकारले मात्रै गर्न सक्ने अवस्था छैन, सरकारले पनि हामी घचघच्याउनु पर्छ। जम्मै राजनैतिक दलहरूले पनि यसमा सक्रिय सहभागिता गर्नुपर्छ। सबै उद्योगी व्यवसायीहरूले पनि यसमा सक्रिय सहभागिता गर्नुपर्छ। देश सङ्कटमा छ, तब देशलाई बचाउने तपाईँ हामी नै हो। नागरिकले बचाएन भने सरकारले मात्रै बचाउने जिम्मेवारीमा लग्यो भनेदेखि देश सङ्कटबाट कहिले पनि अगाडि जाँदैनन्। विरोध गरेर मात्रै यदि देशको समृद्धि आएको भए सायद सबै संसारका सबै देशले विरोध गरेर मात्रै बस्थे। त्यसकारण म साथीहरूलाई विश्वास दिलाउन चाहन्छौँ, यो सङ्कटको घडी हो, तर नेपाल त्यस्तो सङ्कट अवस्थामा छैन कि नेपाल अगाडि बढ्न सक्दैनन्। नेपाली अगाडि बढ्न सक्छ। तपाईँ हाम्रोमा उत्साह आओस्, तपाईँ हाम्रोमा आत्मसम्मान आओस्, आत्मविश्वास आओ, यो भन्दै म तपाईँलाई धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु।
भीमदासजी हुनुहुन्छ। भीमदासजीसँग युएन सिस्टममा 30 वर्षसम्म काम गर्नुभएको अनुभव छ। भर्खरै नोबेल शान्ति पुरस्कार पाएको संस्था वर्ल्ड फुड प्रोग्रामको कन्ट्री डाइरेक्टर पनि हुनुहुन्थ्यो। उहाँले WFPबाट अफगानिस्तान र गल्फ वारको बेलाको इमर्जेन्सी क्राइसिस पनि म्यानेज गर्नुभएको थियो। हाल याङ्गोनको लागि नेपालको राजदूत उदास एनआरएनएको फाउन्डर मध्ये एक पनि हुनुहुन्छ। नेक्स्ट उहाँको प्रेजेन्टेसन।
Thank you, Dr. Powell. Honorable Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Honorable Chair, Honorable Vice Chairman of the National Planning Commission, Excellency former Finance Minister of Cyprus, fellow panelists, distinguished viewers from all over the world, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Before I speak, I would like to confirm that the views expressed here are my personal opinion, and I disclaim my official position. We know corona means a concentric circle of light. This virus is spread worldwide and became a pandemic. Every day, hundreds of thousands of people are being transmitted and thousands of people are dying. The catastrophe in our region is still continuing. We have become self-quarantined, physically distanced, and forced to conduct this convention virtually. We are not in business as usual. COVID-19 has taught us that nature and human beings must live side by side. Human must not exploit nature inhumanly to become rich. The recent wildfire in USA and Australia have proven that nature is superior to science and technology. Hence, they need space to live together. It is uncertain what kind of world we will return to post-COVID. But what is certain that there will be a shift in global economy, global balance of power, and the globalization might be different. As shown in the slide 3, Nepal was doing fine in terms of economic growth with an average increase of 7.3% from 17 to 19. For 2020, it was estimated at 7%, it reduced to 5.3, then further reduced to 1.8 due to COVID-19. Day before yesterday, 8 October, World Bank reported that GDP in 2020 will further down to 0.2%. For 2021, GDP is estimated at 0.6 if the virus continues. I would like to present you in slide 4 the figures how coronavirus has affected our region. India has the highest number of transmitted cases and deaths. Bhutan is the safest country. but we have to look from the size of the total population as well. There is a sharp rise in transmitted cases due to the second wave of the virus. Countries like India, Myanmar, and Nepal have suffered the most. In Nepal, figure has crossed 1 lakh in Kerala state. In Kerala state, the figure is 6 times higher than Nepal, which was considered as model state during the first wave. USA has the largest cases of transmission case as well as death in the world, followed by Brazil. In slide 5, I'm presenting the fiscal relief package announced by the countries in the region. These are based on the available figures and may not reflect the actual one. I have not presented the relief package of Nepal purposely. Since we have 2 prominent honorable guests here, I hope we will hear from them. The stimulus fiscal package of Japan and USA were the highest, with 21% and 13% of the GDP respectively. In terms of economy, Nepal suffered more than what it could absorb or respond. I'm presenting you in slide 6 only a part of the losses occurred as reported by the Nepal Rashtra Bank. Health, tourism, hotels, education, and production sectors suffered the most. 20 lakh people lost jobs during the pandemic, according to the ILO. My focus is on the path to recovery. The country needs a 3-phase comprehensive recovery plan to build back better. The plan can be prepared in collaboration with the UN agencies, international finance institutions, and the NRNA. First, short-term relief phase for saving lives, focus health first. Medium-term recovery phase for protecting lives, focus people are the key. Long-term resilience phase for quick economic growth, focus, go green, go light means less weight and go fast. I think because of the geographical situation of the country, Nepal needs to look at production of less weight goods. The principles of comprehensive recovery plan, my assumption is that COVID-19 will remain with us for some time. So we need to adopt a holistic approach where both economic and human development, means health and education sectors, are given due attention. Human capital is a key component of the economic growth. And it should include both demand side and supply side interventions to support the economy. Activities, short-term, health first, saving life, primary focus, human development, A, enhance emergency medical response and treatment capacity, B, provide livelihood support, C, continue learning environment, online courses, digital literacy. Secondary focus, economic activities related to food security, cash transfer, and employment generation. Medium-term recovery phase, social protection and basic services, create jobs, cash for work programs, education incentives to promote digital literacy, remote learning, and IT centers. In economic activities, invest in agriculture, support to tourism industries, cottage and industries and SMEs with tax rebate and interest subsidy, promote electric transport in capitals, hydro and solar energy, promote digitization. Digital economy, starting from people-centered delivery service such as transport licensing, tax, land registration, customs, and utilities. Long-term, create employment, continue national priority projects, open IT centers in every village, invest in digitization, hydro and solar energy, build infrastructure and implement mega projects, run electric buses in highways. I must say that all these activities were already announced in our national budget for 2077 and 78, presented by Honorable Dr. Khatiwala as Finance Minister. The important point is, however, implementation, and I repeat, implementation. Now, a strategy for implementing economic recovery should be Change is necessary in mindset, easing policies, and creating business-like environment. But first of all, bureaucracy must be reformed. Second, make Nepal digital. Digital economy should be implemented in all sectors, both public and private. We are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. Nepal missed the previous three revolutions. We therefore must work hard to join the digital revolution. Corona has blessed us this opportunity. Let's go digital and digital. Open IT centers in all villages and digital learning in all educational institutions. Run electric transport bus in highways and capitals. Adopt 2 electricity tariff systems, during wet season apply preferential tariff rate to households, transport network, institutions, and industries. Fast-track approach to attract FDIs, focusing primarily industries from China. Some Western and Northeastern investors are considering to move their business industries to other neighboring countries. Our private sector should be proactive and work vigorously to attract them to Nepal. It should be, however, noted that corruption is the single most barrier to attract foreign investment. Next, build infrastructure to connect all the villages with transport, electricity, goods, etc. Grow high-value agriculture and herbal products for exports. Production of rice, wheat, and maize may be limited to subsistence. Branding of Nepali products, initiate Making Nepal. Promote export of finished products instead of unfinished and raw materials. Nepal became land-linked from landlocked, but is still India-locked. The key is India. It's a ground reality. Every businessman would say that. Therefore, we must work together to unlock it for our development and prosperity. I would like to quote what Nelson Mandela said. It always seems impossible until it is done. Nepal has comparative advantage to implement the plan successfully. The advantages are Nepal is bordering with 2 largest friendly countries in terms of population and economy. Nepalese are like a springboard to build back better. Our mentality is forgive past and look forward. Nepalese have bravely faced 3 shocks: earthquake, blockade, and lockdown within 5 years, so they are well experienced. And NRNs are reliable investors and string-free development partners. We are friends of all and enmity to none. And the most important factor is Nepal is a land of peace, heritage, and natural beauty. Let me close with what Lord Buddha said. I never see what has been done. I only see what remains to be done. Let's all join hands to develop Nepal. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Dasju. अब हाम्रो आजको अन्तिम वक्ताहरूमध्ये अन्तिम वक्ता एम कुमारी खतिवडा सचिवज्यू हाल महिला बालबालिका तथा ज्येष्ठ नागरिक मन्त्रालयमा सचिव हुनुहुन्छ। खतिवडासँग यसअघि उद्योग मन्त्रालय, उद्योग र वाणिज्य मन्त्रालय, सूचना विभागमा सचिवको रूपमा काम गर्नुभएको अनुभव पनि छ। उहाँका लेख रचनाहरू विभिन्न पत्र पत्रिकाहरूमा प्रकाशित भएका छन् भने उहाँले कोरियाको केडिआईबाट एमपीपी र त्रिभुवन विश्वविद्यालयबाट एमपीए गर्नुभएको छ।
धन्यवाद। नमस्कार सबैजनालाई। मैले चाहिँ यो इङ्ग्लिसमा तयार गरेको छु, त्यसैले म इङ्ग्लिसमै यो मेरो रिमार्क्स दिन चाहन्छु। Chair of this program, moderators, distinguished panelists, participants, ladies and gentlemen, namaste and good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be a part of this important event to discuss the COVID-19 impact on Nepal's economy and path to recovery. I would like to congratulate the organizer for organizing this event, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my views in this important issue. I also hope this discussion would help to identify a path to recovery for Nepal from COVID impact. The COVID-19 pandemic has become a global challenge, spreading across the world, infecting and deaths of millions of people. In Nepal, more than 100,000 of people detected positive, with more than 600 deaths up to now, and it is in still increasing trend. In addition to the loss of millions of lives, it has impacted in multi-sectoral areas of humankind like economic, social, and psychosocial aspects, production and productivity, employment, remittance, tourism, investment and trade sector have been affected badly. Even after the lockdown ends, resuming such business and establishment of new business has become a challenge. IMF has officially declared that it has pushed the world into an economic crisis. The socio-economic consequences for Nepal, as for the rest of the world, may be the worst in recent memory. Nepal's economy remains hampered by structural challenges, including heavy reliance on remittance-fueled consumption and higher concentration of employment in agriculture. The growth intensified. The recent World Bank report has indicated that the economic growth slowed to 0.2% in fiscal year 1920. One of the survey conducted by Nepal Rashtra Bank has indicated that during the lockdown period, only 4% of industries and business were fully operational, 35% were partially in operation, and 61 were closed. The most affected sectors were education, hotel and restaurant, real estate, rental and commercial activities, and the transport and storage sectors, especially MSMEs. Besides existing gender pay gap in Nepal, the gender inequality has increased alarmingly due to the pandemic. It affected severely to the lower income group women. Most of them work in industries that are less telecommutable, such as hospitality, beauty parlor, wholesale, and retail business. During this period, they are forced to remain out of work. One of the surveys indicate that 28% of men lost their job compared to 41% of women. Increased responsibility at home due to closure of school and daycare also affected working mothers. The harassment, domestic violence, gender-based violence, and especially suicide cases have been reported as an increasing rate during this period. Government is leading the protection cluster to respond to the effect of COVID for those who are under the safety nets, such as women, children, senior citizens, people with disability, and underprivileged group. It has been providing psychosocial counseling and helpline service up to the community level in coordination with the local government and other non-governmental organizations. Employment and livelihood programs for those who lost their job inside the country and retaining migrants from foreign employment have been started. Distinguished participants, despite many challenges, a degree of political stability provides some optimism for sustaining a moderately high pace of economic development. Nepal's economy grew at an average of 7.3% during last 3 years prior to the pandemic. Nepal's progress on basic social indicators has been acknowledged globally. The economy is resilient on the back of strong foreign exchange reserve. Foreign exchange reserve increased to 11.6 million US dollar, equivalent to 12.7 months of import. It is also necessary to examine the effects of COVID-19 on Nepal's long-term development goals of graduating from the status of LDC in 2021, meeting the SDGs and becoming a middle-income nation by 2030. The eligibility of LDC graduation rests firmly on non-economic criteria comprising major stock indicators that are cumulative in nature. Hence, Nepal can still expect to graduate in 2021 and go for 3-year transition period and get benefit from special support measures. The government has announced several relief packages through its policy program and budget to mitigate the effect of the pandemic. The current fiscal year budget has provisioned a fund of 50 billion rupees through which badly affected sectors like tourism and SMEs to revive. Monetary policy declared an attractive rescue package to mitigate the economic effects of COVID-19 for relief and revival of the various sectors. Policy has largely focused on 3R: reduce, refinance, and restructuring the loans. Extension of the loan repayment deadline, extension of grace period for infrastructure project, refinance facility, and targeted lending in productive sectors at cheaper rate are the key provisions of the relief package. In addition to mobilize the internal resources and foreign assistance, it is imperative to accelerate foreign direct investment in Nepal for its overall economic development along with infrastructure development. To encourage domestic and foreign investors to invest in the country, investment-related laws have been reviewed and procedure reforms have also been made so as to ensure the investment-friendly environment in the country. These provisions have been designed for the safe repatriation of profits and facilitation of investor with special provision of service delivery through one-stop service center, investment in secondary market, investment through venture capital funds and technology transfer, reinvestment and repatriation of dividend. As MSMEs are the backbone in terms of poverty reduction, employment generation, and to boost up the local economy in a sustainable way based on the local resources, we need to focus to invest on SMEs. Government is always flexible to discuss and facilitate to private sectors and investors to create a conducive environment to invest in the country. Nepal hosted Investment Summit in 2019 with the objective to showcase Nepal as a potential destination
राम्रोसँग सुनिएन सचिवज्यू हाम्रो आईटी को केही भाइहरुको केही ओपिनियन छ
हजुर सर
के भयो त्यहाँनिर एकपल्ट चेक गर्नु त
सर म्याम को नै नेट इस्यु होला सर यो हाम्रो यता त पर्फेक्ट नै छ
के गरौँ त्यसो
अर्को स्पिकर बोलाउँदै गर्नु न सर म्याम को आयो भने फेरि कन्टिन्यू गर्नुहुन्छ होला नि
होइन अब हामी प्रोग्रामको फाइनलमा पुगेका छौँ
हजुर सर
क्वेसन एन्ड आन्सर को लागि 5-10 मिनेट राख्ने कि डाक्टर खतिवडा चेयरम्यान को
विश्वजी Q&A मा जाउँ अब हामीसँग हार्डली 15 मिनट्स टाइम होला त्यति पनि छैन मेरो फेरि 4:45 मा निक्लनु पनि छ त्यो भएर लेट्स गो टु द Q&A
मेरो विषयमा 5 मिनेट जति दुईटा क्वेसन लिउँ हैन एकदमै शार्प क्वेसन लिउँ त्यसपछि हामीलाई सबैले सुन्न खोजेको नि डाक्टर खतिवडा के हो एक्चुअली सो विल गो ब्याक टु दैट है Q&A मा तीनवटा क्वेसन गरौँ हैन तपाईहरु कसरी गर्नुहुन्छ मेकानिजम रञ्जित जी उहाँहरु बोल्नुहुन्छ कि तपाईहरुले के आईटी ले ठ्याक्कै अन गर्दिनुहुन्छ कि ह्यान्ड वेभ गर्ने केही गर्ने सिस्टम छ हामीसँग
ह्यान्ड रेज गर्न त सर आफैले गर्न पनि मिल्छ
हो उहाँहरुले ह्यान्ड रेज गर्ने अनि तपाईहरुले अनम्युट गरिदिनुहुन्छ अनि उहाँहरुले क्वेसन गर्नुहुन्छ ल त्यसरी गरौँ न ह्यान्ड रेज गरौँ कसैको छ भने
केही क्वेसनहरु आएको छ केही क्वेसनहरु आइसकेको छ त्यसलाई एड्रेस गर्दा पनि हुन्छ कि
यो च्याटमा भएको हामी तीनटा भन्दा बढी नजाउँ है हामी तीनवटा भन्दा नजाउँ हैन मैले कता देख्ने यो Q&A भनेर यसमा हो even though the number of lab मैले एउटा मात्रै देखिरहेको छु के छ यो मेरो च्याट नमिल्या त होइन नि ए यतापट्टि रहेछ तीनटा च्याट रहेछ के यसमा एउटा डाक्टर महतो यही हुनुहुन्छ उपेन्द्र महतो उहाँलाई एउटा क्वेसन छ यहाँनिर हैन हेलो डाक्टर महतो हुनुहुन्छ?
उहाँ हुनुहुन्न
ए हो भनिसक्नु भयो भनेपछि
विश्वजी म क्वेसन सोधौँ त मेरो च्याटमा थियो
हजुर ल
हुन्छ
हस् हस्
यहाँहरू सबैलाई नमस्कार एकदम प्रेजेन्टेसन एकदम इन्ट्रेस्टिङ थियो र मैले एउटा सोध्न खोजेको चाहिँ अब हाम्रो अरू कन्ट्रीहरू अहिले धेरै प्रेजेन्टेसनमा आइसक्यो अझै पनि मैले कङ्क्रिट एउटा चाहिँ सोल्युसन अथवा आन्सर खोज्न खोजिरहेको र हाम्रो नेबरिङ कन्ट्रीहरूलाई हेर्दाखेरि अरू कन्ट्रीलाई हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ यो स्टिमुलस प्याकेजहरू एकदमै डेभलप गरेर चाहिँ इन्फर्मल सेक्टरलाई र एसएमईलाई प्रोटेक्ट गरिरहेको छ र जस्तै अब यहीँ म म्यानमारमा छु म्यानमारमा पनि एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टर चाहिँ एकदम वेल प्रोटेक्टेड त्यो प्याकेज विभिन्न प्याकेजहरू ल्याइरहेछ जस्तै क्यास फर वर्क प्रोग्रामहरू लिएर गभर्मेन्ट इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेभलप गर्ने मान्छेलाई इन्गेज गर्ने अनि तर अब अरू कन्ट्रीलाई हेर्दाखेरि जिडिपीसँग कम्पेयर गर्दा पनि धेरै त्यो प्याकेजमा रिसोर्सहरू छुट्याइरहेको छ तर अब हाम्रो कन्ट्री हामीले बाहिरबाट हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यति धेरै त्यस्तो प्याकेजहरू आएको देखिँदैन र हाम्रो इन्फर्मल सेक्टरहरू कहाँ गइरहेको छ अब कसरी तिनीहरूलाई प्रोटेक्ट गर्ने होला भनेर मैले क्वेसन सोध्न खोजेको
यो क्वेसन कसलाई
डाक्टर युवराजलाई अनि
उहाँले अहिलेसम्म गर्नु भएको छैन उहाँले लास्टमा राख्नु होला होइन
मैले शोभाकर सरलाई राखेँ म यो क्वेसन शोभाकर सरले अलिकति सुन्नुभएको थियो यसमा
शोभाकर सरलाई अर्को एउटा क्वेसन पनि छ होइन यो अहिलेको प्रेजेन्टेसनको चाहिँ नेपालको एसटिजीसँग कसरी अलाइन गर्ने भन्ने चाहिँ हो होइन शोभाकर सरलाई म त्यो दुईटा जोइन्टली एड्रेस गरिदिनुहोस् न सर 2 मिनेट
हजुर थ्याङ्क यू यहाँको यो लेटेस्ट क्वेसन चाहिँ नि प्रोबेबली हाम्रो भीमजीले चाहिँ नि परह्याप्स मोर एड्रेस गर्नुहुन्छ कि किनभने डिफ्रेन्ट कन्ट्रीको रिकभरी प्याकेजहरू उहाँले प्रेजेन्ट गर्नुभएको थियो अब मैले हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ नि यस रिकभरी प्याकेज इज भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट र धेरै कन्ट्रीहरूले चाहिँ नि डिफ्रेन्ट टाइपको रिकभरी प्याकेज जस्तै म बसेको थाइल्यान्डमा पनि डिफ्रेन्ट टाइपको रिकभरी प्याकेजहरू छ कुनै रिकभरी प्याकेज चाहिँ नि अहिले सर्ट टर्मलाई एड्रेस गर्ने टाइपको रिकभरी प्याकेज छ कुनै रिकभरी प्याकेज चाहिँ नि अलिकति मिड टु लङ्गर टर्महरूलाई पर्टिकुलरली जुन चाहिँ सेक्टरहरू चाहिँ नि कोभिडबाट मस्ट एफेक्टेड छ अथवा जुन सेक्टर इज गोइङ टु बी एफेक्टेड त्यो सेक्टरलाई चाहिँ प्रोटेक्ट गर्नको लागि गरेको डिफ्रेन्ट प्याकेजहरू छ यसको प्याकेजको चाहिँ नि डिफ्रेन्ट फर्म्सहरू छ डिफ्रेन्ट इन्स्ट्रुमेन्ट्सहरू चाहिँ मोबिलाइज गरिएको छ अब त्यो चाहिँ नि प्रोबेबली अलिकति अरू साथीहरूले पनि त्यसमा अलिकति थप्नुहुन्छ होला अब अर्को चाहिँ नि नेपालको चाहिँ नि केसमा चाहिँ नि म अलिकति के भन्न चाहन्छु भने मैले अघि नै स्लाइडमा चाहिँ नि सायद धेरै अडियन्सहरूले के भन्ठानु भयो होला भने यो चाहिँ नि बाहिरको एक्सपर्टको इन्टरभ्यू हो कि भनेर भन्ठानुभएको छ यो चाहिँ नि सबै चाहिँ नि एक्सपर्टहरू जुन हामीले लिएको छ सबै हाम्रो नेपालको नै एक्सपर्ट हो उहाँहरू सबैजना हामीले ओभर चाहिँ नि 300-400 चाहिँ नि यो अनलाइन सर्वे गरेका छौँ प्लस चाहिँ नि 20-20वटा चाहिँ नि हामीले स्टेक होल्डर डायलग गरेका छौँ अनलाइन जुमबाट यो सबै चाहिँ नि हाम्रो नेपाली एक्सपर्टको र डिफ्रेन्ट 17 गोलसँग डिल गर्नु हुने नेपाली एक्सपर्टहरू एकाडेमियाबाट पोलिसी मेकिङ बडीबाट युएन एजेन्ट सबै चाहिँ हाम्रो नेपाली एक्सपर्टहरूबाटै आएको रिजल्ट भएको हुनाले यो चाहिँ नेपालकै रिजल्ट हो यो चाहिँ नेपाललाई भ्यालिडेट गर्ने भन्ने त प्रश्न भएन तर हामीले अझ के पनि गरेका छौँ भने अलिकति यसको रिगोरिटीको लागि चाहिँ नि एक्सपर्टहरूबाट चाहिँ नि जुन आएको सर्वेलाई हामीले स्कोरिङ गरेर हामीले चाहिँ सिन्थेसाइज गरेपछि फेरि वी वेन्ट ब्याक टु द सेम स्टेक होल्डर ग्रुप्स र अलिकति उहाँहरूले चाहिँ नि उहाँहरूसँग हामीले भ्यालिडेसन पनि हामीले गरिरहेछौँ र त्यसकारण म के भन्न चाहन्छु भने यो चाहिँ नि यसमा सबै नेपाली एक्सपर्टहरू नै इन्भल्भ भएको स्टडी हो यो चाहिँ नि बाहिरको एक्सपर्टहरूले गरेको स्टडी होइन थ्याङ्क यू
सरी मेरो बिचमा काटे जस्तो छ अब के छ सरी
अघिको कन्टिन्यू गरौँ
इन्भेस्टमेन्ट समिटमा पुगेको थियो क्यारे म होइन
हजुर
होइन अब सचिवज्यू छोटो गर्नुपर्ने भयो
सक्यो त्यही इन्भेस्टमेन्ट समिट मात्रै
तपाईले 1-2 मिनेटमा सिध्याउनु होला है
सकिन्छ हजुर Nepal hosted investment summit in 2019 with the objective to showcase Nepal as a potential destination for investment after the successful political transformation, formation of stable government, and implementation of federalization. The government showcased various projects from energy, tourism, transport, infrastructure, information and communication technology, and agriculture. Let me recall another milestone initiative. The Memorandum of Understanding signed during the investment summit by NRN community to set up infrastructure fund worth of 10 billion rupees to bridge the wide gap of infrastructure in the country. It was expected that the fund would play a catalytic role in terms of bringing investment in infrastructure. Now this pledge has to be transformed into reality as the earliest so that the collective investment of NRN community could contribute for better physical infrastructure in the country. Here, I would like to appreciate the NRNA for establishing NRNA COVID-19 Relief Fund for providing food, shelter to the Nepali student, daily wagers, persons without support and delivering medicines to elderly and handicapped. The NRNA has also mobilized resources to provide healthcare equipment to Nepal. Recently, NRNA has made a partnership with ILO to support the Nepali workers' standards in different parts of the globe due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The NRNA is also supporting the Nepali workers return home from various destinations. Last but not the least, throughout history, the pandemic gave humans many challenges, but it also brought with it many visible and hidden opportunities. It has given an opportunity to craft a new economic model and bridge rural-urban divide through inward orientation. It has accelerated the adoption of digital culture in financial sector, supply chain management, education, and work culture. Millions are now working from home, buying stuff online, and using digital wallet. It has also increased sense of nationality, utilization of local resources and technology, self-sufficiency, and green economy. To grab the opportunity created by the pandemic, all initiations, policies, and plans have to be properly coordinated at federal, provincial, and local governments. At the same time, cooperation and collaboration with private sectors and relevant stakeholders like NRNA is equally important to convert these challenges into opportunity. I believe that this discussion during the program will find out options to recover the Nepal's economy from the impact of COVID-19 and to pave a way to achieve the long-term aspiration of the country, prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. Thank you.
एउटा लास्ट क्वेसन नै लिन्छु म अनफर्चुनेटली हाम्रो सेसन थ्रीज्यू सबैको टाइम कन्स्टेन्टले गर्दाखेरि हैन विकास गुरुङज्यूले चाहिँ नवीन्द्र राज जोशी मलाई क्वेसन छ नवीन्द्र दाइ हुनुहुन्छ हेलो नवीन्द्र राज जोशी हुनुहुन्छ
हजुर दाइ आस्क अ क्वेसन सरी
विकास गुरुङज्यूको एउटा इन्ट्रेस्टिङ क्वेसन छ म त्यसो दिइहाल्छु पछि चाहिँ के गरिराखेको छ यो बेलामा मतलब इकोनोमिक रिकभरीको लागि
मूलत अब प्रतिपक्षले पहिला त यो कोभिडसँग लड्नका लागि पहिला सुरुमै चाहिँ सरकारलाई रकम जम्मा गरेर सरकारले यस विषयमा जे चाहिँ कदम चाल्छ त्यसमा हामी समर्थन गर्छौँ भनेको हो। बिचमा आएर धेरै प्रश्नहरू आए। वास्तवमा हामीले यो जुन राहत प्याकेज दिनुपर्ने हो सरकारले राहत प्याकेजको लागि हामीले बारम्बार भनेको अब यो बेला एउटा समस्या के भन्दाखेरि सरकारको विरुद्धमा सडकमा जानु पनि अप्ठ्यारो यत्रो चाहिँ उसको बेलामा अब सरकारले वास्तवमा प्रतिपक्षलाई सुनेको अवस्था होइन किनभने अहिले बजेट निर्माण गर्दाखेरि नै बजेटकै बेला पनि यसलाई मूल कुरा चाहिँ अहिले स्वास्थ्यमा नै ध्यान दिनुपर्छ। अहिले सबैको समस्या स्वास्थ्य हो र मैले अहिले जुन प्रायोरिटी भने कृषि रोजगारका विषयहरू स्वास्थ्य शिक्षाका विषयहरू छन् यो विषयमा चाहिँ यो प्रायोरिटी हुनुपर्छ भन्ने कुरा हामीले बजेट धेरै ठुलो नबनाऊ सरकारले फिजिकल खर्च घटाउनुपर्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ त्यस बेला पनि हामीले राखेका हौँ बोल्दाखेरि पनि हाम्रो चाहिँ सांसदज्यूहरूले चाहिँ त्यसमा चाहिँ राख्नु भएको थियो। त्यसैले अहिले चाहिँ के भन्दाखेरि जुन यो कोभिडको उसमा चाहिँ हामी सरकार त्यही भएर छौँ बिजनेसम्यानको कुरा पनि सुनिएन। अहिले सरकारको नीतिगत रूपमा पनि प्राइभेटलाई सरकारले कसरी हेर्छ प्राइभेट अर्गनाइजेसनलाई प्राइभेट इन्स्टिट्युसन्सहरूलाई प्राइभेट बिजनेसलाई भन्ने कुरा पनि क्लियरली भएन। अहिलेको बेलामा चाहिँ जुन कुराले भोलिले इकोनोमीलाई चाहिँ फोस्टर गर्छ जुन कुराले इकोनोमिक हाम्रो चाहिँ यो तङ्गाउँछ ती कुरामा अहिले लगानी गर्ने हो नि खै त अब त्यत्रो सारा अघि पनि रेकर्ड दिनुभयो यहाँ चाहिँ सारा संसारले चाहिँ के बिजनेस चाहिँ तङ्गाउनको लागि चाहिँ छ। नेपालमा कहाँ राहत छ राहतको केही घोषणा गरे तर त्यो राहत
को इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन पनि भएको छैन। आज सबैजना त्यही भइरहेको भनिरहेका छन्। आज मजदुरसँग गरेको कुरा पनि भएको छैन, इम्प्लिमेन्ट भएन। आज बिजनेसम्यानहरूसँग गरेको कुरा पनि इम्प्लिमेन्ट भएको छैन। त्यसैले के भने मूल कुरा के भने गभर्मेन्टले, हामीले त भनिरहेका छौँ गभर्मेन्टले यसमा अभिभावकको रोल लिनुपर्छ महामारीको बेला भनेका हौँ, तर गभर्मेन्टले त्यो किसिमको रोल र त्यो किसिमको सेन्सिटिभनेस चाहिँ अब आदरणीय हाम्रो चाहिँ यहाँ युवराजजी हुनुहुन्छ अर्थमन्त्रीज्यू पूर्व हुनुभयो अहिले भर्खरै, तर उहाँले पनि मलाई लाग्छ कि त्यो राहत यदि चाहिँ बजेटको प्री प्लान जुन प्री बजेट छलफलमै पनि यो कुराहरू चाहिँ वास्तवमा चाहिँ त्यसलाई महत्त्व दिएको छ। त्यसैले अहिलेको अवस्था के भन्दाखेरि इकोनोमीलाई कसरी तङ्ग्याउने भन्ने अवस्थामा इकोनोमीलाई सहयोग गरेर चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ व्यापारी बिजनेसम्यानहरूलाई अब यत्रो चाहिँ 61% चाहिँ ऊ चाहिँ स्मल एन्ड मिडियम इन्टरप्राइजहरू चाहिँ बन्नु भए इन्फर्मल लोन पनि नातेदारसँग लिएका छन्, त्यहाँको सहकारीसँग लिएका छन्, उनीहरूको ब्याङ्कमा अप्रोच छैन। कहाँ यो समस्या भएकोलाई कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुरा सरकारले चाहिँ एउटा बनाएर अहिले नगरपालिका हालेपछि के भन्यो भने मैले नगरपालिकालाई फोन गरेँ भने अब सरकारले पैसा पठाउनु हामीसँग आफूसँग पैसा छैन भने त्यसलाई कोअर्डिनेसन कसरी गर्ने यो विचारमा 3टा सरकारको बिचमा कोअर्डिनेसन पनि लगभग मलाई लाग्छ जिरो कोअर्डिनेसनको रूपमा चाहिँ भयो। त्यसैले यो विषयमा हाम्रो चाहिँ के भन्दा स्पष्ट धारणा के छ भने जुन फर्स्ट जेनेरेसन रिफर्म नेपाली कम्युनिस्ट गयो आफ्टर द मुभमेन्ट अफ 1990 त्यसपछिबाट जुन हामीले चाहिँ एउटा दियो नि लाइन दियो नि एउटा यो लाइन अफ द एक्सनबाट कन्ट्री जानुपर्छ, इकोनोमिक पोलिसीबाट कन्ट्री जानुपर्छ भने आज 3 अरब दाम चाहिँ 13 अरब उठ्थ्यो वर्षको, आज 3 अरब दिनको उठ्ने चाहिँ स्थितिमा त पुर्यायो नि काङ्ग्रेसले। तर त्यसलाई चाहिँ सिरियसली लिएर यो इकोनोमिक पोलिसीबाट हामी जान्छौँ भन्ने सरकारले पोलिसी पनि मलाई के लाग्छ भन्दाखेरि त्यसैले हामीले अहिले भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ के भन्दाखेरि यो सेक्टरमा पर्यटन सेक्टरमा चाहिँ प्रताडित छ। त्यस्तै हामीले चाहिँ कृषि सेक्टरमा चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ उ गरेका छौँ। मैले तपाईँहरूसँग यिनीहरूका साथीसँग भने तपाईँहरू मलका लागि 8 लाख मेट्रिक टन मलको चाहिँ आवश्यकता छ, 3 लाख तक सरकारसँग छैन, हाइब्रिड चाहिँ छैन, तरकारीको ब्रिड छैन। आज तरकारीको भाउ चाहिँ डबलभन्दा बढी बढेको छ। यो स्थितिमा दुधको त्यही फाल्नु परेको स्थिति चाहिँ छ यत्रो लकडाउनमा। त्यसका लागि के गर्यो सरकारले भोलि कृषिप्रतिको अनाकर्षण, कृषिमा अहिले पनि यसै त 50 वर्षभन्दा माथिका छन्, त्यसमध्ये पनि 65% त महिलाहरूले काम गर्छन् कृषि उसमा चाहिँ। त्यो कृषि नै चाहिँ अनएट्र्याक्टिभ अब चाहिँ फाइदा नहुने भइसकेपछि कहाँ हुन्छ त्यो युवाहरूलाई कसरी लगाउने, अझ विदेशबाट फर्केका युवाहरूलाई पनि कृषिमा हामीले दिन सक्छौँ भन्ने कुराहरू हो। अहिले मैले अघि पनि भने स्किल वर्कर हामीले त्यो बेलामा गणेशमान सिंह अध्ययन प्रतिष्ठानको तर्फबाट पनि 1 खरब 86 अरब चाहिँ यो पैसा चाहिँ अहिले चाहिँ राहतको प्याकेज चाहिँ घोषणा गर्नुहोस्, तत्काल चाहिँ राहत दिनुहोस्। यसले के गर्छ भने हाम्रो स्टिमुलस जुन भन्छौँ हामी त्यसरी इकोनोमीलाई चाहिँ रिभाइभ गरेर लिएर आउँछ नि त। त्यो तर्फ विशेष गरेर अब सरकारको ध्यान दिन आवश्यक छ। मैले त पार्टी हो भनेर चाहिँ मैले भने म चाहिँ कन्सर्न चाहिँ किनकि खान नपाएको स्थितिमा छ अहिले। जतिसुकै त्यहाँ जतिसुकै भाषण गरे पनि खान नपाएका कसैले नपाएका कोही छैन भने पनि म तपाईँको अगाडि मैले भने यहाँ बिजनेसम्यानलाई सोध्नुहोस्, बिजनेसम्यानले दुःख पाएकै छन्। सबैजनाको मेरो बिजनेस कर्मचारी पाल्न सक्दिनँ भनेर भन्छन्। आज सरकारले के गर्यो त बाबा, संसारमा बिजनेसम्यानको 60% कुनै सरकारले दिएको छ, कुनै सरकारले 50% दिएको छ। ठिक छ, प्राइभेटले 80% दिउँ, म 80% दिउँ भन्ने सरकारलाई कर तिर्छन् आफूलाई नाफा भएको बेलामा। अहिले नोक्सान भएर चलाउन नसकेको बेलामा सरकारले त उसलाई केही सहयोग पुर्याउनु पर्यो नि त। यो त टु वे हो नि त, सरकार त एउटा पार्टनर्स जस्तै हो नि त। त्योतर्फ सरकारको ध्यान जान आवश्यक छ। मैले क्लियर पोलिसी पनि सरकारको हुन आवश्यक छ। प्राइभेटलाई मैले यसरी चाहिँ सहयोग गरेर लान्छु, एउटा सबैजना मिलेर कन्ट्रीको इकोनोमिक डेभलपमेन्टमा चाहिँ सबैको सहयोग लिन सबैलाई चाहिँ अगाडि लाने कुरा हो। त्यसैले हेल्थमा एजुकेसनमा हामीले विशेष गरेर म्यान पावर हामीले चाहिँ उ गर्ने कुरा अहिले त मेजर कुरा जीवनको रक्षादेखि लिएर यी विषयहरू छन्। त्यसमा मैले फेरि पनि जोड्न चाहेँ कि यो जुन हस्पिटलमा अहिले विशेष गरेर पहिलो काम त जीवनको रक्षा नै विषय हो। त्यो जीवनको रक्षा गर्नलाई चाहिँ सरकारले जुन किसिमको चाहिँ कामहरू गर्नुपर्ने थियो, आज साथमा पोसिलो खानाको, सुत्केरी महिलाको यति ठुलो समस्या, नन कोभिड केसेसहरू त्यत्रो मान्छे चाहिँ किन मऱ्यो भन्दाखेरि सेवा पाएनन्, त्यसलाई व्यवस्थित रूपमा भएन। लकडाउन भयो, अब लकडाउन पछि के गर्ने भन्ने प्लानिङ पनि छैन। त्यो त प्लानिङ आज पनि भोलि 18 दिन 19 दिन 20 दिन लकडाउन होला। त्यसको त्यो लकडाउनको अवधिलाई सरकारले योजना बनाउने, त्यो बेला के काम गर्नुपर्छ भनेर चाहिँ काम सुरु गर्ने, कार्यान्वयन गर्ने। लकडाउन गऱ्यो अब ठिक हुन्छ भनेर बस्नुको चाहिँ जुन स्थिति रह्यो, आजको महामारी त्यसको पनि प्रतिफल हो। ठिक छ, महामारी भयो, त्यसले काहीँ न काहीँ हामीले कसरी रोक्ने भन्ने कुरा मैले वैज्ञानिक विश्लेषण होला। फर्स्ट वेभ नै हामी छौँ भन्छौँ भने सेकेन्ड वेभमा आउँदाखेरि के हुन्छ, यो तर्फ चाहिँ वास्तवमा सरकारले चाहिँ अत्यन्तै गम्भीर भएर संवेदनशील भएर सोच्नुपर्छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। त्यसले अब संसद छैन, अहिले हामीले पार्टीबाट कमिटी बनाएर कमिटीबाट बारम्बार चाहिँ सुझावहरू चाहिँ दिएका छौँ। मेरो व्यक्तिगत रूपमा भन्नुहुन्छ भने मैले त भन्छु यस्ता कुराहरूमा सरकार जहाँ जनताले खान नपाएको स्थिति छ, जहाँ जनताले स्वास्थ्यको सेवा सुविधा नपाएको स्थिति छ, त्यो स्थितिमा सडकमा जानुको विकल्प छैन। सोसियल डिस्टेन्स राखेर पनि प्रतिपक्षी दल चाहिँ सडकमा जानुपर्छ, जनतालाई अनुभूति गराउनुपर्छ कि म चाहिँ तिम्रो प्रतिनिधित्व गर्छु है, किनभने प्रतिपक्ष गभर्मेन्ट नै हो जस्तो मलाई
मैले हजुरलाई काट्नुपर्ने स्थिति भयो है। अब हाम्रो सेसन चेयरज्यूलाई म यो कन्क्लुडिङ रिमार्क्स सहित हाम्रो प्लेनरी सेसन अन्त्य गरिदिनु न रिक्वेस्ट गर्दछु। डाक्टर खतिवडा।
धन्यवाद छ विश्वजी, नाइस मोडरेसन गर्नुभयो। क्यान एभ्रीबडी हियर मी?
यस यस।
ओके, म अलिकति नेपालीमा भन्छु, देन आई विल स्पिक इन इङ्ग्लिस। पहिलो कुरा त एनआरएन को साथीहरूलाई धन्यवाद। यहाँहरूको अभियानमा म सधैँसँगै छु। कति साथीहरूलाई सम्झना पनि होला। पहिलो एनआरएन कन्फरेन्सको सहसंयोजक हुँदादेखि र एनआरएन एक्ट बनाउँदा ड्राफ्टिङ कमिटीको कोअर्डिनेटर हुँदादेखि आजसम्म म तपाईँहरूसँगै छु र तपाईँहरूको नेपाल प्रतिको सद्भाव, सहयोग र सबै लगानी सबै कुराहरूबाट म नेपाल सरकारको अर्थमन्त्री हुँदा पनि रिकग्नाइज गरेको हो र अहिले म सामान्य प्रधानमन्त्रीको विशेष आर्थिक सल्लाहकार हुँदा पनि त्यसलाई म रिकग्नाइज गर्न चाहन्छु। Let me just mention a couple of points. I'll not take more than 5 minutes. First, on the presentation of Professor Kandel. First of all, I would like to provide my thankfulness and also congratulate to all the panelists who have been very excellent speakers. Particularly, I would like to thank Professor Dr. Dhakal, who has been kind enough to make a in-depth analysis of the impact of COVID on SDGs. Myself being initiator of SDGs in my country and also the UNDP's SDG champion for Asia Pacific for some years, I think this is fantastic work, but I should say at the moment that COVID is an excellent opportunity also to meet the financing gap and cooperation gap on achieving all the SDGs. A couple of points, Professor Dr. Dhakal, you raised are very valid. It's an opportunity for green and clean development and also an opportunity for the promotion of digital economy. Perhaps many of our activities are already getting digitized. And agriculture, though a lot of emphasis has been put on agriculture, that exactly is what we have been doing for some time. And I think for this green development, agriculture sector growth is one important area where Nepal is predominantly an agricultural economy. The other issue I would like to re-emphasize and for Dr. Dhakal to rethink is about the spending gap in public spending gap in health expenditure and also the infrastructure gap. They are gradually getting closer now with COVID. We are exposed to our limited health infrastructure and also to health budget. So as some of our panelists was speaking about our health budget, I think this was me, the finance minister, who doubled health sector budget in 2 years' time. So I think those who criticize the current, the then finance minister, the immediate past finance minister, have to look at my budget where a substantive amount has been raised and allocated to health, but still it's not enough. Health education budget has to be increased further, but we should not also forget that such expenditure is also gone to the sub-national governments. Couple of other points for Nepal regarding the opportunities created by COVID is the institutionalization of sub-national governments, their service delivery. COVID proved that federalism really works for better service delivery at the grassroots level. We don't take all the credit for having done relief works from the center, but the sub-national governments, and in particular the local governments, have done very fantastic job to deliver services at the local level, including food relief and other kind of quarantine services. So I would say that institutionalization and operationalization of sub-national governments and building their capacity and their response to people was demonstrated during COVID, and that only shows that we have further strength and opportunities to strengthen that kind of service delivery through the local governments. Another area that I would like to highlight on the opportunities created by COVID is more collaboration among agents and stakeholders of countries' development. Within the country, the government, the private sector, the non-governmental organizations, the cooperative sectors were together. Globally, institutions and countries have also come together to rescue countries which are heavily affected by COVID. And look at the IFIs, who have been so fast and rapid, unlike in the financial crisis, to respond to countries which have been badly affected by COVID. So I can see the rapid response and changing and high spirit of collaboration among the stakeholders. That's a good point. And finally, on the positive side, we saw is finally we felt that on physical challenge or the risk, health risk, we all are equal. We are equal, and then that only means that there is a common ground to think about further equality, so that income and other aspects of life are also equal. I would also like to thank Dr. Sharis for his presentation, fantastic presentation, and the boosters of economy, particularly how we can expand fiscal space. I think this is something which we have also been doing. Upedraji's financial disease well recognized. The diagnosis is on, but we cannot make such facilities like tailor-made to every individual. That could be sector specific, and that's what the government has been doing at the moment. Bhimji, Udasji, you made a fantastic presentation. Let me just add to your presentation that the COVID relief package for Nepal stands at about 4% of GDP. I can give you the breakdown. The health-related, particularly the treatment of COVID-affected people, incentive provided to health workers, quarantine expenses, food relief to the affected people, that includes about 65 billion of Nepali rupee. The second aspect is social security and social protection, which includes interest subsidy, electricity subsidy, and social security contribution of the employers to the social security fund, and several other social security, which goes about 24 billion rupees, and tax concession and other kind of rebates also include about 62 billion rupees. So altogether, we have calculated it at about 4% of GDP, which is comparable for the region. But that was done 2 months before. We still are having some more activities undertaking under COVID, and I think now the cost should have gone even more. So I think this is something which we should realize, and you can add in your package, and you can contact Ministry of Finance to get the costing of the same. Now, let me come to the end by just talking about the same stimulus package. We didn't make undue publicity of what we have been doing. It is already in the action, but I think we were almost parallel and even more to some of our stimulus packages. The second thing is the Nepal already have a very strong social protection scheme, and I think in South Asia we are among the best. So already we do have about 11-12% of our budget on social protection. So we need to get more fiscal space if we really want to expand it. And we should not forget that this COVID has significantly eroded our tax base, revenue base, and there is also a capacity constraint, financial capacity constraint. We cannot keep on unlimited borrowing, like printing money, just like Dr. Shari said, and that is temporarily good, but it's not sustainable, we know, and that's something which as a macroeconomist I would never suggest to do for a sustainable financing. And that's why the austerity measures and then resource reallocation and also several other factors we have taken into account. But let me say that whatever resources we have allocated, whatever efforts we have made for the kind of intensity of the disease and the infection, I think they are short, and we have to do something more. But in the meantime, we need to seek support from the whole diaspora, NRNA, and that includes also our well-wishers from all over the world, multilateral and bilateral aid agencies, and also all our well-wishers, so that we can collectively work to have a better response to COVID. And let me finally thank all of you who were linked to this webinar. Thanks to all who are not seen in the screen, but behind the screen you might be hearing. And Vishwaji, thank you very much for anchoring the program very well. And thank you everybody, including the panelists, for having your patience to listen to this discourse for more than 2 hours. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, thank you very much.
हजुर यो सेसन सक्यो हैन त अब
सक्यो सर
थ्यांक यू ल नमस्ते सबैजनालाई
थ्यांक यू नमस्ते
अब भोलि फेरि भेटौँला
अर्को सेसन रुम 2 मा छ है